way. So all of these hypotheticals about what if Congress did this, I'm wondering if you could comment in your discussion of comparative risks about how we actually just, why it is that we actually have just never seen that.
Hey, T. Sippers.
I think it's because the political branches have learned from experience, and experience is the great teacher.
Listen in with me. Let's
An
listen
insightful
together.
discussion of the history and tradition surrounding traditional independent agencies and the separate opinion in the PHH case that has been cited extensively by the parties, and that explains that the structure that the political branches have come up with honors and gives effect to our constitutional values, as we explain on the very first page of our brief. We think that the political branches have done a good job of learning.
I mean, the political branch is Congress, which is made up of both Democrats and Republicans, who are aware that neither Democrats nor Republicans will control the government forever, and are structuring these systems with that in mind.
I think that is exactly right, Justice Kagan, that there's an appreciation and
I'm
understanding.
listening to the
Folks in
argument.
power today may not be in power tomorrow, and you want a structure that will be able to withstand the test of time. The other kind of interesting thing about this is that it's not just Congress. It's Congress acting together with the president every single time. In the case of the FTC Act, the act has been amended time and time and time again since this court's decision in Humphrey's executor. Presidents are signing all of those bills into law. They are supporting the FTC in a myriad of ways. They too have read the vesting clause of Article 2, and they too believe in preserving executive power. It is simply implausible to say that presidents have been supporting these traditional independent agencies now for more than a century and a half, and even from the first Congress, George Washington signing into law the Sinking Fund Commission, the Revolutionary War Debts Commission, the Mint Commission. It is absolutely implausible to say for the entirety of American history,
he wants total
of the United States
power.
have been complicit in giving up a vital
Total
executive
control.
power that is, according to petitioners,
Let's listen.
indispensable to their constitutional duty. The better answer by far is to say that presidents have understood and appreciated the vital interests of the American people can be served by having constraints on the exercise of power. That is a really important part of our constitutional tradition, and that is what petitioners are putting at risk.
You mentioned some of the early history, and I think I want to give you a little bit of a chance to talk about that because we haven't.
Trucking.
You know, when I was a young lawyer and this unitary executive theory really got its start and got its legs, there was a pretty simple version of the history, and that drove a lot of the early discussion of the unitary executive, what was wrong with Humphrey's executor. What have the historians been telling us more recently about that sort of early understanding of the history?
Exactly.
And you know, like bring us up to date here a little bit about where the history is with respect to these issues.
There's an insightful discussion of this in an essay authored by Professor Nelson that we have cited in our brief, and that cites recent historical scholarship.
Can y'all hear?
Also, many amicus briefs that have been submitted in this case, which basically affirm that there is a rich body of recent, including post-CLA law historical scholarship, that supports the conclusion that the history surrounding this issue is at a minimum contestable, and that there is a whole lot of history actually that supports the proposition that the first president of the United States and the first Congress did not believe that the president always and everywhere had to have an absolute, illimitable, indefeasible power to fire every single head of any kind of commission exercising any significant governmental authority. We know that from the first Congress and the Sinking Fund Commission, the Revolutionary War Debt Commission, the Mint Commission, and I think there are some 10 other commissions, for example, that are discussed in Professor Norse's amicus brief, just by way of example. I think that's another virtue of our position, that we're asking the court to give effect not just to the decision of 1789, but also to the decision of 1790. The other side's not doing that. They want you to give a maximalist interpretation to, for example, the decision of 1789, which we agree settled the question of whether the Senate should be able to interfere with presidential removals. But everything else, as Professor Nelson explains, as many other scholars have ably explained, is highly contestable at a minimum. There's actually a lot of historical evidence that goes the other way. That is all the more reason for this court to be cautious in developing heavy-handed constitutional rules that, one, don't have a clear basis in constitutional text. We absolutely accept this court's precedents that interpret the vesting clause of Article 2 to establish a general default presidential removal power, but it cannot be said the constitutional text clearly delineates the boundaries between the president's power and Congress's power with respect to removal. Then when you add to that a growing body of historical scholarship indicating that original understanding from the time of the first Congress and the first president was that significant governmental authority absolutely could be vested in commissions that were not subject to plenary presidential control. That every single member was not subject to presidential control. And in fact, in a lot of respects, as the scholars have explained, those early commissions were actually substantially more independent than modern day administrative agencies. For some of them, the president couldn't even appoint. He couldn't even decide who would be on the commission, as for example, with respect to the Sinking Fund Commission, where you had the Chief Justice and the Vice President were, by operation of law, installed on those commissions. So those commissions were, in a lot of respects, much more independent than modern day traditional independent agencies.
Mrs. Gorsuch. Just want to explore, just for a brief minute, I hope, your scintilla of conclusive and preclusive power
Australia
theory.
has 24 hours to comply
You agree, I
with
assume, the
digital
president is vested
identification,
with
or
all
they
the
will not
executive
be.
power.
They will
Yes.
be
You
unable
agree
to
that he
access
has a
the
duty to
internet.
faithfully execute all the laws,
Yes.
civil and criminal.
Who is governing
We agree
that?
that the Constitution imposes on the president a duty to faithfully execute the laws.
All the laws.
Well,
Some laws he doesn't have to. That'd be news to our friends across the street.
the take care clause is a duty, and it is also a power, but the text of the clause does not provide that the president must have at-will presidential.
I didn't ask that. It says, does he have a duty to faithfully execute all the laws?
We know from
Yes or no?
I would say no in the sense
No.
in the sense that let me. There's two different questions, and I want to make sure that I'm answering the question.
The question is, does the president have a duty to faithfully execute all the laws? The answer is no. Why?
So he can't break the law for sure. For sure. Does he have to be vested with statutory authority to actually directly enforce, or to
I'm
actually?
not asking whether he has to.
That ain't what he asked
I'm
you.
asking whether he has a duty to faithfully execute the laws.
I think
Yes.
the president does not, under both history and tradition, have to have plenary power of supervision. But in the case of the FTC, he does have some power of supervision, including if there's a demonstrable, palpable violation of law. The president could absolutely fire a commissioner of the FTC under the plain language of the statute.
So the answer is no, I guess. But you say that he does have to.
Hey, Max. Thank you, Max to the
direct
boogie.
supervision and removal authority for someone
Thank
who
you,
has
thank you,
conclusive and
thank you,
exclusive
Max to the
authority
boogie.
to bring criminal prosecutions, right?
That is our understanding of this court's decision in Trump v. United States.
That's your understanding.
Yes.
But
Left
not
Earth,
civil.
right way.
That's
No
right.
power over you.
And then just to be clear, so that means if the government wants to bring a misdemeanor, that person has to be reportable to the president. But if the government wants to bring ruinous fines and penalties and injunctions, that person doesn't.
I don't know the scope of this court's holding in Trump v. United
I'm
States
asking
and how.
you for your theory because it's a very interesting theory. You're building off of two words from Trump versus United States and putting a gloss on it that I'm not familiar with. I'd understood the executive
William
power.
Grant, hit the like button. If you comment, hit the like button.
I don't know where it comes from.
You're
And I'm wondering, I'll put my cards on the table. Maybe it's a recognition that Humphrey's executor was poorly reasoned.
If you can't hit the like button, then retract your comment.
Branch of government that's quasi-judicial and quasi-legislative. Maybe you're trying to backfill it with a
William
better
Grant.
theory that itself recognizes that we've got a problem.
The theory that we are referring to, Justice Gorsuch, as we understand it, is not just based on this court's recent decision in Trump v. United States. It goes all the way back to Marbury v. Madison, and Marbury does not use the term conclusive and preclusive, but it absolutely says.
And neither does Humphrey.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
It talks about the distinction between authorities that are vested in the president and the president's powers in the constitutional sense, and executive power in the constitutional sense. And it actually cites Marbury v. Madison for that.
Oh, sure, I would hope it would.
For that proposition, and Marbury itself distinguishes in the context of removability of
Janet, let it ride. I left it open on purpose. Let it ride, Janet.
Your theory to backfill Humphreys and go down this road. How are we supposed to decide which powers are exclusive and preclusive? For your purposes, as you understand it, not as I understand it from Trump the United States, but as you understand it, what powers are going to fall in?
If it gets overwhelming, I will put it.
Litigation over that.
I will make the
Anything else we might
adjustments.
do in this case?
I don't think so. We've had this modern era of traditional independent
Keep it
agencies for a
respectful.
long time. We haven't had any precedent ever striking them down, and this court has not been, as far
And
as
hit
I
the
know,
like
overwhelmed
button.
with difficult questions of line drawing. In fact, from 1935 to 2025,
Keep
you
it
have pretty much
respectful
unanimity
and hit
among
the like
courts.
button.
The traditional independent agencies are fine. To go back to
You haven't had a lot of litigation over Humphreys and its limits and its boundaries. Seal of law, you invoke it as a great decision.
we
had a lot of litigation.
We do invoke seal of law as a great decision.
We're always going to have litigation over the separation of powers, aren't we?
Austin, that was not respectful. That's why.
But the point is that this court's precedents affirming Congress's authority to work with presidents to create traditional independent agencies has not generated any significant
Well, at least you
problems,
stand to
still
support
less
yourself.
insurmountable problems.
Thank you.
You're welcome, William.
Try to tick through a few questions here. On Justice Alito's questions, you said independent agencies do rulemaking, enforcement, and some adjudicatory powers as well, but so do the traditional cabinet agencies do all of that too, or at least most of them do. So I'm not sure that helps
You're
you
right. I let it
distinguish
ride.
the independent
Austin.
agencies from the traditional executive agencies on the earlier questions, but I'll just leave that. You said you agree with, I think you said you agree with all the court's precedents. That,
Yes.
that includes everything in Myers.
We agree with the holding of Myers.
You agree with the opinion in Myers.
That's not necessary. That's none of your business.
A lot of the reasoning in Myers went too far, and that was part of what the court decided in Humphreys.
On the text
Shout out to
of Article
Chi-Town.
2, we haven't talked a lot about the theory by which you get to the other side's position from the text. The first 15 words, the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. For the president to exercise that power, he needs subordinates for him to, and he needs to be able to supervise and direct.
No, we
subordinates.
listening. Ain't nobody
And
said nothing about
to supervise
politics. We
and direct,
listening.
He must be able to remove those officers
Austin.
at will. This is the theory. Otherwise, and this is
You
what
wanna
I'm getting
debate.
to, otherwise, a subordinate could
And I'm not
ignore the
debating with
president's
nobody who
supervision and
is
direction
a
without
predator
fear
lover.
The president could do nothing about it. You agree?
Let's
that's
be
the
clear.
implication of
I
your
believe that
theory,
everybody
correct?
who supports
That the subordinate
predator lovers
disregard the
have
president's
a
instruction,
predator
and that in some circumstances the president can do nothing about
likeness.
it. Yes, in some circumstances, but not under the FTC Act.
Let's
in
be
the
clear.
Modern era of traditional independent agencies. If there was anything like malfeasance, if there was neglect of duty, so that would be associated with law breaking, as Professor Manners
means you
discusses
agree
in
with
her
it.
amicus brief on the INM standard.
But generally, if the president says, "I
double
wish you
tap
to
the
prefer,
face of your phone and get the likes up,
pursue a
y'all.
more aggressive enforcement policy," and the head of the agency says, "I'm not going to do that," there's nothing the president can do about that, right?
If it's just a matter of enforcement priority, that's right. And
Or,
Y'all say bye to Austin. I said we're not going to do that. That's why they can't see your comment. But I'm going to put you out anyway, Austin, because you cannot follow instructions. So I already know who you like, and you are a PDFer too, because you can't follow orders and you feel entitled. Okay? Now get your ass up out of here.
Precedents don't stand for the proposition, Justice Kavanaugh, that we have to have those arrangements. They just stand for the proposition.
Janet was just waiting to get you.
Representatives in Congress and their democratically elected president, in appropriate circumstances, can come together and decide the vital interests of the American people, including
Janet was
preservation of
waiting.
liberty. And I don't think we should forget about that. Including
I agree.
that can be effectuated by having these multi-member commissions. That
Two real-world questions on it. You've mentioned many times you can just go to Congress to fix this. Well, once the power is taken away from the president, it's very hard to get it back in the legislative process. Kind of the flip side of what we were talking about in the tariffs case. Because the Congress, the real world of this is the independent agencies shift power from the presidency to the Congress. Everyone recognizes that. The Congress has more control over the independent agencies than they do over the executive agency. So Congress doesn't want to give that up. It's hard for the president to get new legislation passed that would, for example, convert an independent agency into an executive agency. Do you have an answer to that I think just leave it to Congress ignores the reality of the legislative process and Congress's desire to keep that power that they have had that most people have recognized over the independent agencies. That's a theory out there. I just want to get your response to that.
Yeah, I have two responses to it. One
Hey,
is that I
Pete.
don't think it's an accurate characterization of what's going on to say that Congress is aggrandizing its own power at the expense of the executive. I think, in fact, exactly the opposite. And a lot of these
That
agencies...
famous quote, "The independent agencies are ours," by a leading member of Congress. That was just...
I will give you an example from the FTC Act itself. The operative provision from the very first version of the Act provides that this Act is all about defining unfair methods of competition in commerce. Full stop. How do you know what is an unfair method of competition in commerce? The statute doesn't say. It delegates that congressionally, constitutionally enumerated authority to an agency that the president has all kinds of supervision and influence over, and what is happening...
But much less than the executive agency. I understand your point there. I think I got it. Your brief refers to regulatory stability being a virtue served by the current overarching regime.
I'm drinking
I think a lot of
tea.
the regulated parties really think stability has been a virtue of the regime because it goes back and forth when the agencies shift power. And so I think, unaccountable instability would be what they might say. So can you address why you think, and this is relevant to the stare decisis factors, I think, why you think regulatory stability is actually occurring at a lot of these independent agencies?
Yeah, absolutely. So two things. One is that part of the logic of that comes from this court's decision just last term in the Chevron case, where the court said you can have a lot of regulatory instability if every single time a new administration comes into office, all of a sudden everything can change. Now, that is a problem on steroids if petitioners get their view, because you don't even have to wait for the administration to change. The president could just on a whim decide tomorrow that everything the agency has been doing is wrong. Public reliance on stability presupposes that this is the whole point of the staggered terms requirement of that this court explained in detail in Humphrey's Executor, that the whole point of this structure is to guarantee a modicum of stability that private regulated entities can depend upon, and that is jeopardized by at-will presidential removal.
Two more quickly. Hopefully you've used the phrase chaos and disruption if you lose, and don't strike down the entire agency. I think you used that phrase. I don't think that's what would happen if you lost, and I think you would agree with what I'm about to say, which is if you lose on the merits, the proper remedy is simply to sever the for-cause removal provision, not to get rid of the FTC. Do you agree with that?
I agree with part of it, but not all of it. The remedy is not to get rid of the FTC, but I think there's an analytically difficult question about whether the proper remedy would be to sever the for-cause removal provision, as opposed to, depending on the nature of the ruling, maybe one isolated power that is deemed to be quintessentially executive and that generates the separation of powers problem.
Okay, last, sorry about the length of this, but this is important. Last, you said Congress, as a tradition, they won't depart from it, but the last 10 years we've seen two examples of first a single-headed independent agency and separately a double for-cause removal provision. So I don't think the idea that Congress is just following the model that it's used before is really sustainable in the face of those two experiments that we've seen in the last 10 years. That's just a comment from your point about, there's a model and they just follow the model.
It is not an absolute rule, and there may be times when the political branches depart from an established model, and when they do so in constitutionally problematic ways, what we know from recent history is that this court will be there, and there will be time enough to decide those questions.
All right, thank you for your answers.
Justice Barrett?
I want to just ask a quick question about history. Justice Kagan was asking you about new scholarship that historians have identified, which you say shows that independent agencies has a longer pedigree than maybe some thought originally. But do you concede that the first statutory, anything that looks like a statutory removal restriction, like the inefficiency, neglect, malfeasance, appeared in 1887 with the ICC?
I don't know if it's the first, to be honest with you, Justice Kagan, Justice Barrett, I'm sorry, but What I would say is that as to the early commissions, I think that factor actually cuts the other way because there's a provision authorizing presidential removal for some commissioners. That's our point. Commissioners like the Chief Justice and the Vice President were appointed by statute, and the President couldn't remove them under any circumstances.
But they were 2 of 5, and it could remove, he had unchallenged authority to remove the other 3 who served on that commission. I mean, and there's silence. I mean, there's not the inclusion of statutory removal restrictions. You didn't really see that until the ICC.
They were understood at the time to be, for the officers like the Chief Justice and the Vice President on the Sinking Fund Commission, for example, to be completely insulated from presidential removal. And it wouldn't make any sense for the President to be able to remove them from the commission. That was not the understanding at the time, as has been ably set out by many historians. But here's the bigger point, is that those commissions are, in a lot of ways, much more independent than modern-day independent agencies. And petitioner's theory is based on the idea that any time these commissions are exercising significant governmental authority, every single commission member must be subject to at-will presidential removal. And in that respect, their theory cannot be squared with founding-era practice.
But Counsel, the Sinking Fund had the Secretary of State, Treasury, and the AG, and there's no dispute, even under your theory, that the President could fire those 3. So sure, the Chief Justice and the Vice President, but he could very easily take control over the fund. Also, we distinguish that in Collins. I mean, it seems to me that these early examples had very, very limited authority. Or the Revolutionary War Debt Commission, there were no statutory restrictions, and all it did was settle accounts between the United States and individual states after the war. I mean, there's nothing that looks like the FTC at the time of Humphreys, or certainly not today. You have to concede at least that.
Yes, and two responses to that. I think it's a fair observation. But first, for the Sinking Fund Commission, for example, maybe it didn't wield the broad panoply of authorities of the FTC. That's fair enough. But Alexander Hamilton thought that it was absolutely indispensable to the health of the national economy, and that this was about managing the public debt, and he thought that it would implicate the nation's stability going forward. That's why they thought this governmental function should be vested in this multi-member commission. So it was not something that was deemed to be insignificant by any stretch of the imagination. But one more point on the difference between the 3 members and the 2 members. We have real-world evidence. This is not an abstract thing. We have real-world evidence of Chief Justice Jay, I believe it was, who could make the dispositive vote difference in terms of the Sinking Fund Commission of when they make a decision that the President's cabinet supports, when they make a decision that they don't. And so the fact that there are some members of the Commission who are conceitedly not removable at will by the President, that just makes our point that the first President of the United States and the first Congress emphatically rejected the constitutional theory on which petitioner's position is predicated.
Counsel, let's just assume that I disagree with you about the history. Let's assume that I think, I'll grant you for this purpose that the decision of 1789, if you just took it in isolation, maybe not as conclusive as Myers thought it was. I'll just grant you that for purposes of this question. But let's say that I think the liquidation argument throughout the 19th century shows that by the time of the end of the 19th century, up until we get to the ICC, and the emergence of what starts to look like the more modern independent agency, that the government has the better of the argument. But let's say that in 1887, after the ICC, and then after the FTC, and then after Humphreys, when there was more of the explosion of independent agencies, that let's just assume, again, for this purpose, that at that point, yes, you do have precedents like Humphreys. Humphreys clearly is a good case for you. Do you still lose? If I think as of 1887, it was liquidated, it was settled, but then we did have cases and congressional practices that veered from that unbroken law.
No, we don't lose. We don't lose on the merits, and we certainly don't lose on stare decisis. So on the merits, the doctrine of constitutional liquidation by historical practice absolutely can apply based on the last 150 years of history.
But counsel, if it had the first, in the assumptions that I've asked you to make, it was liquidated as of 1887. So you think liquidation can kind of get a new restart, like kickstart in 1887?
That is not just my view. That is the view of this court in cases like, I believe, NLRB, Canning, and Chiafalo. And I would also direct the court's attention to United States versus Curtis Wright Export Corporation, where the court said, you have 150 years of historical practice. That's enough.
Okay.
Justice Jackson?
Really quickly on your exchange with Justice Gorsuch, your hesitancy to respond to his take care question, I'm wondering whether that has to do with the fact that prosecutorial discretion exists and that the idea can't be, I think, that the executive has to always enforce all the laws, right?
I think that's right, and the very authorities that petitioners cite in the reply brief actually stand for that proposition. In cases like United States v. Texas and the Heckler v. Cheney case, the court went out of its way to expressly and unambiguously affirm Congress's authority to regulate prosecutorial discretion by statute.
Let me ask you about Justice Kagan's invitation to expound upon comparative risks. I don't know if we got back to that, but before you do that, let me just also focus in on Justice Kavanaugh's question about losing on the merits and the extent to which the answer would be just striking down the 4-clause removal protections. I mean, I appreciate that, but doesn't that create pretty significant risks with respect to the missions of the various agencies? I mean, it's not just we don't have 4-clause removal and the agency continues. That would then, I think, open the door for the president to come in, each new president, and clean house in terms of all of the individuals who are running that agency, notwithstanding their expertise and knowledge and experience and the things that they are doing to promote the mission of the agency. And presumably the president could install whoever he wanted in those positions, and that, I think, creates risks. So why don't you talk about the comparative risks of your formulation or understanding of the different constitutional dynamics and what the government says should happen in this situation?
Sure, there are real-world risks that are palpable that we know can materialize very quickly if petitioners get their way. And think about it in terms of commissions like the Federal Elections Commission. Would anyone want those sensitive election-related determinations to be under the plenary control of a political actor? Think about the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Can't Congress and the president come together and say those types of technical determinations that could have massive implications for the public in all kinds of ways should be made by a multi-member body of experts? And if there's any kind of problem with the way those commissions are working, they can be changed by the political branches in a heartbeat. And presidents, as far as we know, are not even trying to change them. It's not like they're coming to this court and telling you, we have a big problem, we've been lobbying Congress, and Congress is just, to Justice Kavanaugh's earlier point, they're just not going along with it, and they're not doing the right thing. Presidents are not even trying to go to Congress to get these 4-clause
because presidents have accepted that there could be both an understanding of Congress and the presidency, that it is in the best interest of the American people to have certain kinds of issues handled by experts who, and I think you were in your colloquy with Justice Kagan, you identified the fact that these boards are not only experts, but they're also nonpartisan. So the seats are actually distributed in such a way that we are presumably eliminating political influence because we're trying to get to science and data and actual facts related to how these decisions are made. And so the real risk, I think, of allowing these kinds of decisions to be made by the president, of saying everybody can just be removed when I come in, is that we're going to get away from those very important policy considerations.
You will get away from those policy considerations, and it will create opportunities for all kinds of problems that Congress and prior presidents wanted to avoid, risks that flow inevitably, just given human nature, the realities of the world that we live in, risks associated with extreme concentrations of power in the hands of one person.
Can you talk about the FTC? This is my final question. Why would Congress have thought it important to make this agency in particular independent?
I think in large part because Congress had tried and it experimented with alternatives in the past. They didn't just do this on a whim. They tried to legislate on their own, and they determined that it was not practicable for Congress to exercise its own constitutionally enumerated authority to regulate commerce by, for example, specifying ex ante all the different things that would constitute unfair methods of competition. So what they wanted was an expert agency that could take on that task and that would insulated from political pressure, not just emanating from the president, but emanating from Congress too. Congress is giving away its own power to some extent.
Your point is that they were doing something important for the interests of the American people, not with an effort to try to strip the executive of any authority or anything like that, but to fulfill its own Article 1 obligations to legislate in the best interest of the American people.
Absolutely, and in a lot of ways, they're giving the president more power than he had before, because the president wouldn't have the authority to determine what are unfair methods of competition all on his own, and that's what will be the practical result of accepting petitioner's theory. That tomorrow you'll have a situation where the president can come in and unilaterally decide. This is a quintessentially lawmaking function. Unilaterally decide what constitutes an unfair method of competition. If that was going to be the law, why wouldn't Congress just reserve that?
Thank you, Counsel. Rebuttal, General Sauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice. 2 quick points. On the sort of parade of horribles argument that's being made, I think it's very telling that Mr. Agarwal, one of the last things he said is that the FEC has to remain independent, but of course the FEC does not have statutory removal restrictions, and under Braidwood, the president already has the power to remove the commissioners of the FEC. Therefore, the notion that like this is the end of the world is going to change the structure of our government, the lead counterexample that's given is one that's already been decided by this court's cases. Justice Barrett, regarding the question of historical liquidation, we think the case that you ought to look at is Powell against McCormick. It's very analogous to the sort of historical what happened in history here. In that case, Congress, from the time of the founding until the Reconstruction Congress after the Civil War, had interpreted the Constitution to not allow it to refuse to seat a member of Congress other than the reasons that are set forth explicitly in the Constitution, the Qualifications Clause. The Reconstruction Congress changed that and decided not to seat a couple of former members who had close ties to the Confederacy. And after that, for the next 100 years or so, Congress then started exercising that power, not often, but intermittently exercising the power to refuse to see other members. This court said in Powell against McCormick, what is decisive there in that point of constitutional interpretation is the liquidation that occurred in the 19th century, not the subsequent, again, very lengthy 10-year practice of Congress refusing to do that, and therefore it held that Congress lacked the power to.
Don't he have dementia?
In that case, we think that's very, very compelling.
Why are Trump lovers okay with him making decisions and he don't have all his brain? I mean, I'm just trying to figure that out.
That Congress could take.
He don't have all his sense. He never had good sense. But hell, he don't even have all of that.
And convert them into multi-member agency commissions outside the government's control. How many of them it could do is really a creature of not a question, a constitutional question on his view. It's a question of statutory accident. Are there?
He don't have good sense. Never had it. I mean, what are we doing?
There are, maybe they can be excised. And obviously, the devil's in the details here. Because if those
the devil, he is the devil in the details. I mean, it don't make no sense. It don't even make no logical sense. He only had half of a brain. Hell, now he have a quarter of the half.
But if they're narrow, then
he have 1/4 of sense.
Reconstruct virtually the entire.
Now you not now East Coast, you're not gonna spam my chat. You can say it one time and one time only, and you've already said it, so don't put it in there no more. You understand? You do it again, tag his ass. Oh, she beat me to it.
Independence that runs from the lowest to the grade to the highest to the president, and the president is accountable to the community, which is the voters. In short,
all she needs to hear is me call y'all name, baby. It is a wrap.
Hold on the minds of some people within our
do not spam my chat.
Seems to have a powerful hold on the minds of lower court decisions. The court should the lower courts and their decisions. The court should overrule Humphrey's executor explicitly and restore the separation of powers to our government.
Thank you, Counsel.
William,
the case is submitted.
You see
the
my
Honorable Court is now adjourned
until when? I was trying to show you the fruit tea I was drinking. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna back up what we missed. Hold on. Yeah, you know, you're not gonna just spam us now with all that foolishness. William, this is the special blended somebody gifted me. Can you see that? Oh, let me turn around. And there's fruit inside. Let me show y'all. There's fruit in the bag. That's the tea I'm on right now. It has lemons, a little lemon, lime, mango in there. Yeah. Now that's here what we miss until they come back. Because I didn't hear how it started.
We disagree with that as in our brief, wielding the executive power is conclusive and preclusive.
How do you go with that? Can it be arbitrary, completely arbitrary?
It is conclusive and preclusive, so any review of arguably bad reasons for the president to remove an executive officer would be subject to the political process. It would not be subject to judicial review, and certainly not subject to statutes regulating that.
I think there are a lot of agencies in the federal government where it's hard to parse whether it's an executive function they're engaged in or a legislative function. We obviously have the Perlmutter case that we're holding where you're dealing with the Library of Congress, which half of it's a library, half of it's things like the copyright. What are we supposed to do with that?
That's not Robert Kennedy.
Mr. Chief Justice, in Free Enterprise Fund, this court, I
That's
think,
one of
very
Trump's
aptly
attorneys.
stated that the vast and varied nature of the federal government is a reason not to make general pronouncements on issues that haven't been briefed and argued. There are certainly situations where there are tough line drawing problems. You raise the Perlmutter case as one that may raise arguments of that nature, but by and large, the sort of insight that goes from Morrison to FCC against Arlington and to seal of law recognizes that these multi-member agencies that are exercising what this court has repeatedly recognized as quintessential executive powers, like the FTC, rulemaking, adjudication, investigation, seeking of civil enforcement power, litigation, seeking civil enforcement powers, or civil enforcement remedies, and so forth. Those are not close cases.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your point about not deciding cases that aren't before us, and I meant the Perlmutter case as an example. But I'm not sure you answered the question. Is this a severance issue?
Jose, don't come over here lying. He's breaking the law, and you know it.
Long as, half of it survives.
Don't come over here lying. Let your opinion be of truth, no lying.
For the vast majority of these agencies, I think
he's breaking the law, and he knows it.
Executive agencies that are multi-member structure and have removal authority.
He does not have power to bypass Congress.
Severability in Free Enterprise Fund and seal of law and Collins indicates that in the vast majority of cases there would be an excision just
not come over here lying.
Now, if there are agencies that kind of straddle the line
and hit the like button before I put you out.
Why is that severability the issue? Meaning, if you think they're wielding power that is inappropriate, why don't we sever that power?
I think those very arguments
instead of the removal power.
Well, for example, consider an agency like the FTC, which is before the court. Virtually all of its powers.
Work confidently while on SSDI with all sub-employment services.
Excuse me?
We can help you participate and find it.
This court, even in Sheila Law and all of the cases you've mentioned since, have said that Humphreys is controlling law. You're asking us to overturn a case that has been around for over nearly 100 years, correct?
90 years, I believe.
90 years. What other cases have we overturned that have had a pedigree of 100 years?
Penoyer against Neff was overruled by Schaefer against Heitner on its 100th birthday.
That was an economic case.
She ate him up.
Case?
For example, Erie overruled a Swifty Tyson 96 years later. Those are two examples.
But which other case has fundamentally altered the structure of government? For over 100 years.
None of them.
Actually, since 1887, we've had multi-member boards, and that's the entire government structure.
The distortion of the structure of government, respectfully, that Humphrey, the
Doesn't,
philosophy of
aren't you asking us to distort it a different way?
I think we're
Neither
asking,
the king, nor parliament, nor prime ministers.
She ate him up.
England at the time of the founding ever had a unqualified removal power. You're asking us to say that at a time, the founding, when the Constitution doesn't speak about this at all, where there was robust debate over this issue among legal scholars at the time, that we ourselves has said repeatedly in Humphreys and other cases, Wiener, even in Myers, that that those cases you mentioned did not establish this absolute power of the president. You're asking us to destroy the structure of government and to take away from Congress
He
its ability
bypassed.
to protect
He
its
bypassed
idea that
the
a-
proper
the
structure.
government is better
He think he's
structured with
above
some agencies that are independent.
the law.
I think we're asking the court to return to
But he wants
the
people to
dominant
follow
line of
the law.
authority that started
As
in
long
Ex parte Henry
he
in
wants the
1839,
non-Jewish
when this
people to
court said
follow
that it's
the
a
law.
settled and well understood construction of the Constitution. The president alone can remove executive officials. That was reaffirmed in Parsons, for example, where it described it as settled beyond the power of alteration. Again, in Shurtleff, similar language. Myers says the same thing. Free Enterprise Fund, Collins, Seal of Law, Trump against the United States, and even Humphrey's executor itself paid lip service to this principle. Humphreys described this power as unrestricted and illimitable. And in order to get out of that rule, which the court has recognized in those 9 decisions.
Now, I'm okay with the pauses being taken out of the foods.
Where
Absolutely.
else have we so
Who gave him
fundamentally
permission?
altered the structure of government?
I think what the fundamental alteration of the structure of the government was ushered in
Absolutely,
by Humphreys,
AI.
and then the Congress kind of took Humphreys and ran
Or
with
Al,
it in the
AL.
building of the monetary administrative state and the proliferation of independent agencies that are insulated from
Independent
democratic
agencies
control.
have been around since
She ate him
the
up.
founding. The Sinking Fund, the War Commission. We've had independent agencies throughout our history. So this is not a modern contrivance.
We disagree with that, as in our brief, we disagree with that characterization of those agencies. The Sinking Fund Commission, for example, was composed of 3 officers who were cabinet
And we have an
secretaries.
amicus that
declared
shows
removable.
us how the president's will could have been thwarted by that structure.
Thank you, Mr. Tom.
We have an amicus brief that shows
For
us
the floating
how
hearts.
that the president's will by that structure could have been thwarted.
These kinds of historical examples, I think, have been considered in this court's cases from Free Enterprise Fund and Seal of Law and so forth.
So what do we
There's
do
been a lively
with
debate
Morrison?
about that, and the
What
court
do
has
we
come-
do with Morrison and Wiener and Perkins?
Well, Morrison, for example, I think is a really critical precedent here, because what Morrison did is it repudiated the entire logic that supported the holding of Humphrey's executor. It repudiated correctly the idea that there are these quasi-judicial and quasi-legislative powers that are outside the executive power.
Eccentric,
and
the
they're
problem
wandering
with
around
that
the executive
is, hold on.
The Chief Justice
The
by
problem with changing it, okay, if they allow Trump to change it, then on his own merit, without cause or reason, then it would just for him to be a modern day Hitler for dictatorship. I mean, so why would we do that? And what makes him think he is sane enough, balanced enough to change the Constitution? He's targeting blue states now. He's not fit. He's not sound. He's not balanced. He's not balanced. You know, that's the best way for me to say that without insulting either way. He's not balanced enough with the rights. He is pardoning drug dealers from foreign countries. So everything that he say he stands for, in reality, he is for, as long as it benefits him, not the people. Because the drugs that he say he's trying to stop from coming into the U.S., he just let them out to do just that. So what sense does that make? He just don't want the drugs to come in from Venezuela anymore. Or he wants it to come in. Yeah, because he is funneling it to other places. He wants it to come in from Honduras. I'm sure he's getting a better rate and a better deal. That's why he pardoned him. Why else would he pardon someone from Honduras who brought in drugs to the U.S. majorly, in a major way? So that's what I'm saying. He only have a fourth of a brain. The rest of it is mashed potatoes. It don't make sense. So, no, he should not have power to change the Constitution. Absolutely not.
Saying that maybe we just need to look at each agency individually. So we can't leave that area. By the way, your logic, you're putting at risk. By this, you're saying there's uncertainty. I think the uncertainty in the lower courts was not over Humphrey's executor. It has been over the court's most recent decisions, not because of Humphrey's executor. But you're putting at risk the independence of the tax court, of the federal claims court, Article I courts. You're putting at risk the civil service. I don't see how your logic could be limited.
As to the non-Article 3 courts, we haven't challenged the removal restriction as
Not
the
yet.
non-Article 3 court.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We recognize that there are some line drawing
But it's
issues
coming.
as to those that came up in cases like Freitag and Ortiz. Again, those aren't presented here. Those aren't briefed here.
Not yet.
There's a difference, I suppose, between Humphreys and Weiner, right? In terms of whether you overrule one or overrule the other, in terms of the consequences.
This is why it's never good
agencies.
To put a convicted felon 34 times, 32 times
if you think
over
that's more like something like
in the position of a president.
Court of Appeals or the Armed Forces or the tax court or all those others, strikes me that Humphreys may be the issue, then that doesn't mean that Weiner falls with it or that the other agencies
Because he brings
fall
that
with it as
criminal
well.
mind
The piece of Weiner
and criminal
about this,
activity
I put
to the
on
White
line.
House.
We invite the court to overrule Weiner as well. Part of Weiner we think has been overruled by Braidwood, which is Weiner, interpreted, found a removal restriction that was not in the plain text of the statute, and that contradicts case law from Shurtleff until Braidwood. The other aspect of Weiner that we think is destructive is the phrase, the philosophy of Humphrey's executor. That philosophy of Humphrey's executor seems to have a very firm hold on Congress and a firm hold on the lower courts.
Why is
And
there
that's why there's been a proliferation
145
of litigation
people
on this.
listening in, but only 32 likes?
I'll be brief. There's one thing about philosophy and there's another thing about holdings. Certainly the holdings of Humphrey's executor doesn't necessarily support Weiner to its fullest extent.
We agree with that.
General Sauer, can I ask you about
Hi,
the
Jean.
Federal Reserve? The other side says
Hi,
that your
Jeanette.
position
I'm
would
sorry.
undermine the independence of the Federal Reserve, and they have concerns about that, and I share those concerns.
Please double
So
tap
how would
the face
you
of your phone
distinguish,
if you're
the
listening
Federal
in on your
Reserve from
device.
agencies such as the
Or
Federal
hit the
Trade
three
Commission?
dots
We
at the
recognize and
top.
acknowledge what this court said in the
And hit the like
Wilcox-Harris
button for me,
stay opinion, which
please.
is that the Federal Reserve is a quasi-private, uniquely structured entity that follows a distinct historical tradition of the first and second banks of the United States. There's two adjectives there, an adjective and an adverb, unique and distinct.
Okay.
The Federal Reserve has
Then waste your
described
time
as sui
someplace
generis.
else.
Any
Who wants
issues
to
of
know?
Removal restrictions as a member of the Federal Reserve would raise their
I
own
have
set of
faith
unique,
in
distinct
God.
issues, as this court said in Wilcox against Harris. We have not challenged those, either in this case or any
So,
other case.
that's your
And
opinion.
so it's not before the court.
But I
what-
think the question, General, did you want to? I think the question that these questions go to, right, is if you take your logic at face value.
Okay. I said okay.
Agree
I
to
said
membership,
okay. Who wants to
but
know? So why you
would
keep
say
saying the
some of
same
your
thing over and over? I said
fundamental
okay.
in your briefs.
Now what does that mean to
The
you?
vesting clause, how many times do you say in your brief gives the executive power?
Yeah, we
all of
must-
it to the president?
We have faith of a
And,
mustard. Exactly.
So if you believe
I mean,
that,
so who are
the
you?
fact that you can
Are
say,
you
well,
not
this
God?
has a
You don't know,
history
so
and that
shut
has a
up.
tradition,
Get out.
doesn't much go to the rationale
Okay, bye.
that you are
Get your
asking
ass out. I was
court
waiting for the
to
opportunity.
accept. So once you're down this road, It's a little
Y'all,
bit
I
hard
mean,
to see
y'all
how
act
you
like
stop.
y'all can't
And I
understand
think that
English.
that's one question. I mean, you know, there's another question about whether you should start at all. But one question is, if you accept that proposition, which
Y'all
is the
like
fundamental
predators.
proposition
Y'all
of your
daddy
brief,
must have played with
it does
y'all
not
butt
seem
or
as though
something.
there's
What
a
is wrong
stopping
with y'all?
Yeah, I think it's a proposition of our brief, but those are obviously quotes from these courts' opinions. So it isn't that we have gone down this road. I think the court has been down this road. The country has been down this road since the decision of 1789.
Don't come in here playing with God.
Describes this as settled beyond doubt. Again, Parsons, which anticipates all the analysis of Myers.
No, Lori,
says
go
the very
someplace
same thing.
else.
This is beyond question that there's this
Go
real
someplace
power
else.
behind. That's 1897. It's well after the bitter interbreach disputes about the Tenure of Office Act. It's after Congress started engaging in this proliferation of restrictions on the removal of inferior officers.
Well, let me ask you how you would justify, and how you would justify consistent with the proposition that all
Yeah,
executive
my likes
power
are
is
not up
vested
high
in
enough for
the
me not to
president.
say nothing. So if y'all
Let's
want me to
start
just
with,
be quiet, then y'all
Article
need
I,
my likes need
how
to
would you
match the
justify,
number of people in here. If
keeping
not, I'm gonna
those
say what I
courts?
want to say
Those
when I
courts,
want to
the
say it. If you
determination
don't
has
like
to
it,
be
get
made
out.
on a court-by-court basis, so to speak, as to whether or not they're engaging in the executive power. There may be tough line drawing questions there.
I mean, I thought that one of the things that we've said, again, in many, many cases, is that even though they're engaging in adjudicative functions, they have to be executive by their nature.
There's a dispute about this, I think, basically lurking beneath the surface in the discussions in Ortiz. If they are indeed exercising executive functions, then the logic of this logic would apply.
Go ahead, please. No, go ahead.
Well, I'll go. Is it a possibility, let's say you have an agency that is, I don't know, pick a number, 85%
Okay, bye.
judicial.
You could have just
judicial
left,
entities
Jeanette.
that have been
Just get
talked
your
about
ass
in
out.
the brief.
You don't have to
A
say
smaller
nothing.
percentage
Just
is some
go.
executive function that they do, whether it's issuing rules or whatever. Is there a principle that you
Yeah,
would
just
sever
go.
out the smaller little tail on the dog and allow the judicial functions to go on?
Quite possibly, that would be I think a unique severability question that would be distinct from the merits. So if there was an agency that kind of straddles the line between two branches, and that may raise a different severability question. But for the mine run of these multi-member executive agencies, they're clearly exercising executive power. They're doing stuff that the NLRB does, that the MSPB does.
So how about those? You are here saying the NLRB goes down, the MSPB goes down, notwithstanding that they do all their work, or almost all their work, in judicial type proceedings.
I wouldn't say goes down. I would say they were restored to democratic accountability in the constitutional structure. But we have contended on
the current versions of those agencies goes down.
We have challenged those in this court, NLRB and MSPB, and there are others. This court in state of law. I mean, there's various lists out there.
How about inferior officers?
We haven't challenged any restrictions on inferior officers.
Why wouldn't that also have to go?
That would certainly, restrictions on inferior officers of the United States would be problematic because, of course, Myers is involved in inferior officers.
Right.
The logic of Myers extends to inferior officers.
And obviously, there are all kinds of inferior officers wielding executive power all over the place, yeah?
There are many.
Yeah, so it seems as though executive officers. How about employees?
Again, we haven't challenged the restrictions on.
I know you haven't challenged it. It's really, the question is, where does this lead? What does it take you to, given what your primary rationale is? Employees are wielding executive power all over the place, and yet we've had civil service laws that give them substantial protection from removal for over a century. How about those?
Well, we do not challenge.
I know what you don't challenge. You're missing the point.
Well, then let me point the court to, if I could, to.
On the redistricting wars at length. This is probably the
Hold on, let's listen.
surprising piece of news that we've heard yet.
Tell us a little bit about how you think that's going to go here, and if you can give us any hints about how it will play out.
Well, first of all, we got to realize, we didn't want to have to do this. This was done because Donald Trump told Texas, Indiana, North Carolina, our neighbors, to rig the election and make sure his policies are so unpopular, he couldn't win the midterm. Mm-hmm. So he's rigging it, redrawing those states' maps, and basically disenfranchising Virginians. and disenfranchising other parts of the country who now their voices won't be heard. Their voices will be minimized because he's rigging the election. And so, you know, I don't know how y'all did, but I grew up in 3rd Ward in Houston, and
let's go,
if
Houston.
Billy came and punched you in the mouth, you didn't sit there and cry.
Let's go.
You better punch back unless you're going to keep getting punched. And that's where we are right now. We have a bully, and he has a bully pulpit, and he's bullying these folks in these states to change the rules. And so we have an opportunity, we have an obligation, I think, to stand up and do something different. And in Virginia, because we have this trifecta, we have an opportunity to do some redistricting, to look at redrawing the maps. Our congressional delegation right now is 6-5 Democrats, 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. You know, 10-1 is not out of the realm. And I think, yeah, I mean, you laugh. I know, I'm not joking. I think it's a... No, 10-1 is not out of the realm to be able to draw the maps in a succinct community-based getting punched. And that's where we are right now. We have a bully, and he has a bully pulpit, and he's bullying these folks in these states to change the rules. And so we have an opportunity, we have an obligation, I think, to stand up and do something different. And in Virginia, because we have this trifecta, we have an opportunity to do some redistricting, to look at redrawing the maps. Our congressional delegation right now is 6-5 Democrats, 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. You know, 10-1 is not out of the realm. And I think, yeah, I mean, you laugh. I know, I'm not joking. I think it's a... No, 10-1 is not out of the realm to be able to draw the maps in a succinct community-based way. But we're going to take a look at it. We have to. The Congress right now is like a 3-vote difference. And so if he keeps rigging these things by 1 and 2s and 3s, we have to push back. And so right now, Virginia's going to have an opportunity. We have a long process to do that. Ultimately, the voters decide. The legislature, we have to make a constitutional amendment. We've already voted for the first resolution. In Virginia, you have to vote for it twice with an intervening election. So we voted for it once. We had an election. We'll vote for it again, more than likely on January 14th. That's why I say things that happen fast. And then once we do that, we'll set a date, pass some legislation to set a date for an election to happen on whether we should adopt that proposed constitutional
amendment. Beat the bully down.
Yes. What they call the decennial, right? Every 10 years. So a mid-decennial redrawing of the maps. And that's what we would do if we were able to pass it. So y'all going to be seeing a lot of more TV commercials again. I apologize in advance because it's going to be a whole campaign. And hopefully most of y'all will support it because we cannot allow folks to rig the system in the middle of the cycle and we not respond. And that's what we're doing.
So it looks like a 10-1 map is on the table. Can you explain why that is so cataclysmic here?
Simple.
I only pay $10 a month.
You can't let a bully you forever.
Have you heard about Rio?
Beat his ass.
10-1 map is on the table. Can you explain why that is so cataclysmic here?
Oh, I mean, it's extraordinarily important. I mean, I live in Virginia, and right now it's got a 6-5 map, which nobody's going to convince me that isn't gerrymandered. Don't tell me that it was drawn by 2 special masters. I don't care about that nonsense. Okay? The state of Virginia is not a 6-5 state. It has voted for president, Democratic. It has 2 Democratic senators. It just elected a Democratic governor in a landslide. But like California, people were saying there's nothing Democrats can do to undo this unfair map for the Democrats in the state. And like in California, we saw Democrats figure a way out. In this case, in Virginia, it is the legislature that figured out that if it enacts a constitutional amendment in 2 different terms, it's already done it in the first one. It'll do the second one in early January. It'll then go on the ballot.
Get in there, Virginia.
Live in Virginia.
Get in there.
If that happens, then we're in business. And the legislature can draw a new map, and the Democrats in the legislature, which is a big, sizable majority, thanks to the sweep of the elections in November of this year, they've said they're going to do a 10-1 map. And I got to tell you, Brian, there's no one who's been pushing harder for states to go big than me. Yeah. 10-1 sounds awfully good.
Get in there.
We had spoken about what Virginia could do.
Get in there,
just
Virginia.
A few weeks prior. We had spoken about the fact that at 8-3 could be a great map. That 9-2 could even be likely the best that we're looking at if they're taking a super forward-leaning posture on this. And so, what was your reaction to the fact that we're not talking about 8-3? We're not talking about 9-2. We're talking about 10-1 now.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think if people go back, they'll say what I said was that I prefer 10-1, but that 9-2 would be acceptable. That I understood that there would be a push by the Democrats in Northern Virginia to not want to give up as much vote share as the districts go further south. So that I thought 9-2 would be fair. I was against 8-3, but boy, good for the legislature of Virginia. Good for Luis Lucas, who, by the way, has stood up to Youngkin at every turn. Yep. Good for her and good for the legislature saying that they're going to go 10-1. That is a good development for democracy. It's a good development for Democrats in Congress. And it will offset what we're going to see, Brian, coming out of Florida with Ron DeSantis as he violates their state constitution. He's not going to try to do a ballot initiative. You know, Republicans end up bringing this stuff to their voters, right? They're just ramming it through, violating the law. Texas, you know, we've talked about Texas and my thoughts there. Missouri's getting sued. Indiana, the shame of what Indiana Republicans look ready to do there. But Virginia Democrats will offset potentially a big chunk of that.
Do not come in here leaving a comment if you have not hit the like button. I'm going to remove your comment. Double tap the face of your screen. Get the likes up. Do not comment if you have not hit the like button. Period.
Because if they give away, blue area and take on red area, it makes their own campaigns that much.
Do you understand? If you coming in here leaving your comment, make sure you have double tap the face of your screen or hit the like button. If not, keep your comment to yourself. Double tap the face of your phone. Period. Come on, get the likes up. I need to start talking to y'all like Trump. All you Trump lovers. Since y'all all up in his ass, I need to talk to y'all like that. Because y'all like when people talk to you rough and ignorant. Y'all like that stuff. Double tap the face of your phone or get out. Exit to the left. Get out. Go that way. I know y'all know I can see when my likes go up. Y'all may not can see it, but I can. Why are y'all here? Double tap the face of your phone or hit the 3 dots at the top right. Hit the like button or leave. Now, I know y'all think y'all entitled, but no, not over here. Your entitlement is over there to the left. Get your ass on out. I'm gonna start talking ignorant like Trump. Y'all love that shit. Ooh, y'all love it. The Satan. Shit, these people crazy.
Much more difficult, and they have to raise that much more money, and they have to be in district campaigning that much longer. And we've seen a lot of instances where certain Democratic representatives are taking on these areas, like Robert Garcia, for example, to make that California map happen. But then what people don't talk about is the reason that this is so difficult is there's lots of reporting that existing lawmakers don't want to do that.
The lunatic
and in fact,
librarian
that's some of the reporting that's come out of Illinois.
This is the first time we've ever had this much agreement.
We are seeing
no, I don't agree.
This assault against democracy by Republicans. What would your message be to those legislators and lawmakers who are more focused on keeping their district as insulated with as many blue voters as possible, so that they don't have to give up ground and make their own re-election campaigns that much more difficult come the next election?
Yeah, this
Hi,
is what's
Harvey.
infuriating, and I give Congressman Garcia credit in California. I give actually a number of the Democratic members of Congress in California a lot of credit because a number of them are making their districts more competitive. Look, it's one thing to say if you are in a district that is 52% Democratic, 48% Republican, you don't want to lose vote share. Like I get that, but if you're in a district that is 80% Democrat, 85% Democrat or 70% Democrat, like you can lose Democratic voters. You can.
Your ADHD friend avoids busy places, then this is the one gift that truly supports.
Oh, Obamacare was not a failure. Stop lying. Now, if you over here to lie, I'm gonna put you out. Obamacare was not a failure. This bullshit Trump got going on right now, yeah, that's a failure. So let me put you out. Yeah, let me put you out. Bye. Yeah, you take your lunatic ass on somewhere. You don't want to give credit where credit is due. I see that already. I'm only going to give you an opportunity to talk for a little bit until you continue to push your narrative of lies. And I'm going to put your monkey ass out. Okay? Now get the likes up. Let's hear a sound voice. Sound reasoning. Is this the right one, Trump? Back up. No, that ain't the one I want. Yeah, don't come over here lying. I'm going to put you out. This is a no-lie zone.
There is a... sacred trust in this country. A bond that holds us together, even when the winds of politics try to tear us apart. It is the understanding that those who wear the uniform, those who risk everything for our freedom, serve the Constitution, not a king, but today, frankly, that bond is being tested in a way I never thought I'd see. We are witnessing something that should shake every American to their core, regardless of who you voted for. It starts with a man named Mark Kelly, a Navy captain, an astronaut, a United States senator, and an administration that seems determined to turn the military justice system into a political weapon. Now, before we get into the heavy details of this story, I need to ask you something. If you believe, like I do, that we need to have these hard conversations, that we cannot look away when our values are threatened, then I need you to stand with us. Click that subscribe button right now. Become a member of this channel. Join this community because we are building something here that is about truth, not noise. We need you on the team. All right, let's look at what is actually happening. You have a retired officer, a man who has flown combat missions and looked down at our beautiful blue planet from space, now facing a threat that sounds like it belongs in a different century, or perhaps a different country. The current administration, led by President Trump and the Pentagon, has launched an investigation into Senator Kelly. They are talking about recalling him.
Y'all double tap your screen, get the lights up.
Business gifting elevated.
We're talking about recalling him, a retired veteran, back to active duty. Why not because of a crime committed on the battlefield, but because he spoke up, because he released a video advising troops that they have a duty, a legal duty, to disobey illegal orders. Think about that. For a second, in the United States of America, telling our troops to follow the law is now being framed by the White House as sedition. They're calling it a betrayal. But we have to ask ourselves, Who is really betraying whom when the powers that be try to silence a critic by threatening them with the court-martial? That is not strength. That is fear. It is the fear that people might actually listen. It is the fear that the men and women in uniform might remember that their oath is to the Constitution,
Facts.
not to a person. We have seen this administration push boundaries before we have seen norms shattered. But this is a specific kind of danger. It suggests that once you put on that uniform, you belong to the president forever, body and soul, and that your voice can be stripped away if you don't toe the line. That is not the military I know. That is not the America we built. We deserve better than a leadership that treats our heroes like liabilities the moment they speak an uncomfortable truth. This isn't just about Mark Kelly. It's about whether we are going to allow the tools of national defense to be used for political retribution. And folks, we are just scratching the surface of how deep this goes. You know, when I think about the presidency, I think about the weight of the office. It's not just about the power you hold, it's about the restraint you show. The founders understood this. They knew that a military loyal to a person, rather than the law, is the first step toward
They are impeaching. What are you?
that doesn't look like
Are you
America
talking? Who
anymore.
you talking about, Sherry?
And that brings us back to Mark Kelly.
Where people are
This
not
unprecedented
understanding.
move by the Pentagon. This isn't just about one senator.
If his orders
It's
are
about a signal
illegal,
being sent
they
to
should
every
impeach.
single person
Who you talking about? Trump
who
is
has
being
ever
impeached
served.
right now. He
The
has
message
7
is clear.
articles.
Your service records, your sacrifices, your rank, none of it matters if you dare to criticize the man at the top. They are dusting off old laws, laws meant for extreme circumstances, and twisting them to fit a political vendetta. We calling a retired officer to active duty just to court-martial them.
Absolutely, we okay with the. We are okay.
That is a
Listen,
bridge we have
if you come
rarely,
over
if
here,
ever crossed in this
speaking
manner.
of the
It's the
AI,
kind of thing
we are looking
we
at
found
the
in history
message,
books
not the
concerning
messenger.
Failing
Get out.
democracies, not the United States in 2025. I want you to
The message
really
is
picture
clear,
this.
whether it's AI or not.
Imagine a man.
You have a demented mind. Y'all would sit up and listen to Trump with dementia. With dementia. And be cheering, hooping, and hollering. Hooray. Y'all too slow for me. This ain't the place for you. Get out. Get out. Get out. How dare you? Fool got dementia. And y'all sitting up there, oh, he's the best. He's the best. Yo mama, Cal, you black too. You didn't read the memo? You still believe in that whitewash shit? Carl, you black too, bitch. How about that? You black too. Don't come over here talking that black crap. Cause you are black. You just don't realize it. Yeah. Where the hell you think you came from? You think you came from Trump? I know you think you all up in his ass, baby, but you are black. Black is the chosen one. Yeah. You just way on the other end of the brown. But your ass is black too. Yeah, understand that. Y'all came from us. We didn't come from you. You understand? So welcome, white chocolate. All you white people came from black. Yeah. Y'all better go wash that whitewash off and get to the root. Yeah, y'all black too. Y'all just a lighter shade. I call y'all white chocolate. White chocolate. And the more white people need to be educated. Any more white people need to be educated? Yeah, want to know where you really came from? No. Go back to the root. It's in Africa, baby. Y'all came from us. We didn't come from you. That's the reason why y'all have to whitewash. Because y'all are allergic to the dark, what is it called? Bronze. Y'all scared of that bronze, ain't you? The hell? How the hell you gonna get brown from white? Shit don't work. Y'all come from us. We don't come from you. Understand? I'm gonna give you a lesson. You may not like it. Yeah. Y'all better stop tripping. Don't tell me about million of Americans. Boy, please. Y'all blow my mind. Co-signing for a person who grapes children. Y'all sick in the head. Y'all mama must didn't love y'all. Ooh, Lord. Let me get back to some sound mind. Y'all crazy as hell. Co-signing for a PDFer. You couldn't love your mama, daddy, or none of that. Or you make me think your ass been touched too. Which one is the truth? Was that ass touched? Yeah, look,
Bridge we have rarely,
our military should not take
it's the kind of thing you read about in
orders
history
that are
books
not legitimate orders
failing
that will put everybody in
democracies,
danger.
not the United States in 2025. I want you to
Let me back up since they came in deflecting.
every single person who has ever served, the message is clear. Your service records, your sacrifices, your rank, none of it matters if you dare to criticize the man at the top. They are dusting off old laws. Laws meant for extreme circumstances and twisting them to fit a political vendetta. Recalling a retired officer to active duty just to court-martial them for speech. That is a bridge we have rarely, if ever, crossed in this manner. It's the kind of thing you read about in history books concerning failing democracies, not the United States in 2025. I want you to really picture this. Imagine a man who has dedicated his life to this country, suddenly being told that his retirement is void, that he is back under the thumb of the commander-in-chief, simply because he reminded troops of their legal obligation. It's absurd, and it's dangerous, because if they can do this to a United States senator, a man with a platform and public support, imagine what they could do to a lieutenant or a sergeant who sees something wrong and decides to speak up. This is how you kill the conscience of an institution. You make the cost of integrity too high to pay. But here's the thing about Americans. We don't like bullies. We don't like seeing the rules rigged. And we certainly don't like seeing our military used as a prop for political theater. This investigation into Kelly is hitting a nerve because it feels like a betrayal of the basic agreement we have with our armed forces. You protect us and we respect your neutrality. When that neutrality is shattered, when the military becomes just another tool for political punishment, we lose something
William,
vital.
what are you trying to say?
Trust that keeps this whole experiment working. Before we go further into how the law is being twisted here,
you can't say what you want to say over here.
I need to ask you to do something important. If you believe that our
I don't care where you serve William
better than
Flowers.
this,
If that's what you're trying to say.
if you believe in standing up for what's right, hit that join button below, become a member. It's the best way to support this channel. And ensure we can keep bringing you these deep dives. We need 1,000 strong voices to join us today. Be one of them. Now let's talk about the specific law they are trying to use against Senator Kelly, because the details are truly chilling. let's get into the weeds for a moment because the
Double
specifics
tap the
matter.
face of your
To
phone. Get the
understand
likes
the
up.
gravity of what is happening to Mark Kelly, you have to understand the tool they are using. It's a provision in the Uniform Code of Military Justice that says retired members of the armed forces, people who have hung up their uniforms, who are living private lives, but can still be subject to court-martial. Now, historically,
Thank you, Mysterious Eyes.
this was meant for the most egregious crimes.
What up? It's your boy Big Marco.
Oh, no,
and I'm
sir.
coming up
No.
next
Oh,
on Bottle
Lord.
Alert. Hello.
Things that dishonor the service in a profound way. It was never intended to be a trapdoor for political dissent. It was never meant to be a leash that the president can yank whenever a retired veteran speaks their mind.
Thank
But that
you.
is exactly what we are seeing. The administration is arguing that by telling troops to disobey illegal directives, Senator Kelly committed conduct unbecoming of an officer. Think about the twisted logic there. In the military, every soldier is taught that they have a duty to disobey an unlawful order. That isn't sedition. That is the Nuremberg principle. It is the safeguard that keeps the military from becoming a mob. So when Mark Kelly reminds troops,
Let's be clear, everybody who wants to say who Obama bombed, what he didn't do. He went through the proper steps. He didn't bypass Congress for nothing. You understand? He didn't bypass Congress. He went through the proper channels. So stop comparing this bomb to Obama. Obama did not act like he was above the law. He didn't bypass shit. And he still got stuff accomplished. So shut up, boo. Shut up with that stupid shit. Now, if you coming over here for a battle, I'll give you one and then I'm going to put you out. He bypassed the proper channels. He has a personal agenda. Yes, he did. Stop. Let me put you out. Because everybody would have known if he bypassed Congress. The first example that his attorneys would be using would be Obama. Obama did it when they asked them who supersede, who bypassed. Shut up, y'all lying. I'm not gonna deal with y'all lying. What's the article? Put the proof. Put it in the comment section where the link to where we can find it, or shut up and get out. Where's the link? We're not talking about deportation. Again, I'm going to say he went through Congress. If he did not show us or put the link, put the link so we can research it. If not, you just talking. I'm not Googling shit. I said he didn't. You said he did. So you prove it. It ain't up to me to prove it. You prove it. You telling me to Google it? No, you the one lying. I ain't Googling your lies. Are you crazy? And he's stealing billions. Yeah, you better shut up.
Troops of that duty, he isn't undermining the chain of command. He is reinforcing the very foundation of military law, yet they want twisted logic there. In the military, every soldier is taught that they have a duty to disobey an unlawful order. That isn't sedition.
That's already in place.
That is the Nuremberg principle. It is the safeguard that keeps the military from becoming a mob.
That is
So when
already
Mark
in
Kelly
place.
reminds troops of that duty, he isn't undermining the chain of command. He is reinforcing the very foundation of military law, yet they want to put him on trial.
I told you to prove it.
This is where it gets personal for me.
You still want to debate. I said prove it.
For you too.
So now you got to go.
They can criminalize the defense of the law itself. Then
Okay,
we are
boo-boo.
entering a territory
Boo-boo. Go
where
shit on
the
yourself.
law no longer
Bye.
matters. Only power does. They're trying to create a world where loyalty to the leader supersedes loyalty to the Constitution. And they are using a decorated astronaut, a man who has served his country with distinction.
We only want facts over here. We don't want that bull crap.
To scare everyone else into silence. I want you to take a second and think about what this means for the future. If this precedent stands, every general, every admiral, every sergeant major who retires will have to look over their shoulder for the rest of their lives. They will have to wonder, if I speak out against a policy I know is wrong, will they come for my pension? Will they drag me back into uniform just to court-martial me? That is a chilling effect that will silence the very people whose experience and wisdom we need the most. We cannot let this slide.
Y'all listen, he would rather the military be on U.S. ground doing the police's jobs so that when Ukraine, or not Ukraine, but when our foreign enemies attack, our military will be unaware, off guard, not prepared. Yeah, and that is not what they signed up for the military for. So it's all a tactic because they got a plan in place.
We cannot treat this as just another headline. This is a battle for the soul of our military and our democracy. I need you to be part of this fight.
Maybe, Loretta, I don't know.
To $50 by doing
but if they are scared, are you talking about Congress? Who are you talking about that's scared?
If you haven't already,
and agreeing with him,
please hit that subscribe button. And if you can, join as a member. We need 1,000 of you to step up and say, not on my watch. Your support lets us keep shining light on these shadows.
Who hasn't been, hold up. Sherry, who hasn't been accused of pedophilia? Who are you saying has not been accused of pedophilia? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Y'all, we got to pause for this one. I need to hear who she talking about. Marcel, you coming over with disrespectful stuff? You got to get out of here. His name is President Obama. Sherry, hurry up, Sherry Welker. Come on. Who are you talking about? I'm just saying he's never been accused of pedophilia. Are you talking about President Obama? Are you talking about Trump? Who are you talking about? Y'all need to be clear.
Now, as bad as the legal twisting is, the reaction from the public and the military community is telling us something even
Sherry,
more.
I asked you, who are you talking about not being accused of pedophilia? And how do you not see the impeachments? I played it the other day. I played where Al Green has 7 orders of impeachment. Who are you talking about that has not been accused of pedophilia. Okay, get your Stanley. Bye. Sherry, I'm waiting on you to answer what I asked you. Oh, you done got her out. Oh, okay. I was trying.
Important. The cracks are starting to show, and not in the way the White House expected. You know, in times of crisis,
Let me back it up.
I often look to the people who were actually.
Every time y'all come in here with this bull crap, I'm backing it up.
This is just another headline. This is a battle for the soul of our military and our democracy. I need you to be part of this fight. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. And if you can, join as a member. We need 1,000 of you to step up and say, not on my watch. Your support lets us keep shining a light on these shadows. Now, as bad as the legal twisting is, the reaction from the public and the military community is telling us something even more important. The cracks are starting to show, and not in the way the White House expected. You know, in times of crisis, I often look to the people who are actually doing the work, the quiet professionals. And right now, inside the Pentagon, behind those thick concrete walls, I can tell you there is a deep uneasiness. This isn't just political noise to them. This is their livelihood, their code of honor. When Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth stood up and confirmed that the Pentagon is reviewing Senator Kelly's conduct, claiming that appropriate action must be taken for discrediting the armed forces, he wasn't just speaking to the press, he was sending a shockwave through the ranks. Let's unpack that phrase. Discrediting the armed forces. It sounds serious, doesn't it? But we have to ask, what actually brings discredit to our military? Is it a former Navy captain reminding soldiers of their oath to the Constitution? Or is it an administration that is willing to break the glass on emergency powers just to settle a score? I think most Americans know the answer to that. The military is not discredited by the truth. It is strengthened by it. It is discredited when it is dragged into the mud of partisan politics. And this is where the real tragedy lies. We are seeing a dangerous confusion taking root. Imagine being a young corporal or a lieutenant today. You joined up to serve your country, to be part of something bigger than yourself. And now you are watching the leadership in Washington fight over whether you should follow the law or follow the leader. That is a terrible position to put our young men and women in. It forces them to choose sides in a political war when they should be focused on the defense of this nation. I'm seeing the reactions across the country, and it worries me. On one side, you have folks who are terrified. They see this investigation into Mark Kelly as the first step toward an authoritarian state where dissent is criminalized. They look at history and they see the patterns. On the other side, you have people who are genuinely angry, people who love this country but have been told that Senator Kelly is a traitor, that he is trying to start a mutiny. This division, this manipulated anger, is exactly what keeps us from solving the real problems we face. We are fighting each other while the foundations of our democracy are being chipped away. We cannot afford to be passive observers here. The stakes are simply too high. This is why I am asking you to engage with this, to share this message, and to help us build a community that values truth over tribalism. If you are hearing this and you feel that stir in your chest, that sense that we can do better, please click that join button.
This robotic puppy looks so real, it completely fooled my neighbor who's a veterinarian. I've been a grandmother for 15 years.
So, Besley, does it matter? Are you listening to the message, or are you looking for it to be AI? Which is more important to you? If it's AI or if the message is true? which is best for you, Besley? I want to see. I want to see where you at with that. I want to see if it matters if it's AI or if the message is true. Yeah, because when people say that, that means you trivial minded to me. You know, what difference does it make? Hell, your president, he ain't AI, but he ain't saying shit. So, which would you rather? AI that's giving sound advice, sound knowledge, or 1/4 of a brain, a quarter of a brain, that's full of shit. Which would you rather? I'm curious to know where your mind is at.
Become a member. We need 1,000 of you to stand with us today to help us keep this conversation going. Your support is the fuel for this fire. But we have to look
I'd rather anybody flood our country
if they succeed
than flood Israel
the question becomes,
with our money.
Who is next? And more importantly, what happens when
well, you don't have to look at it no more.
Down,
Happiness.
an order that crosses the line.
Okay.
There's no one left brave enough to speak up. Let's dig a little deeper, because you have to ask yourself, why now? Why is the administration coming down so hard on Mark Kelly right at this moment? Usually when
because Mark Kelly is representing the truth.
There is a fire somewhere that someone is desperate to hide.
Absolutely.
Mark Kelly has been very clear about this. He believes this investigation isn't really about a video he posted on social media. He believes it is a smokescreen. He argues that he is being targeted because he was getting too close to the truth about something else, specifically potential violations of military law regarding recent controversial strikes. Now, think about the implications of that. If a United States Senator who sits on the Armed Services Committee is raising red flags about how our military power is being used, and the response from the White House is to threaten him with jail time, that is not justice. That is a cover-up. It suggests that the administration is more concerned with protecting its own image than protecting the integrity of our operations. It suggests that they are willing to weaponize the justice system to stop legitimate oversight. This is the kind of thing that keeps me up at night. We give our leaders immense power. The power to launch missiles, to deploy troops, to make life or death decisions. But that power comes with a check: accountability. If you take away the ability of Congress and the people to ask hard questions, you are left with unchecked power. And history teaches us quite painfully that unchecked power always, eventually, turns against its own people. I look at what is happening today.
Too quiet? Turn your sound from 100% to 600% with Power Sound. Just hit Add to Chrome, it installs in seconds.
And I see a pattern that is disturbing. We are seeing a shift where loyalty is demanded not to the country, but to the party line. If you step out of line, if you ask the wrong question, if you shine a light in a dark corner, you are labeled an enemy. You are called a traitor. Senator Kelly is a patriot who has served this nation his entire adult life. To brand him as seditious for doing his job as a senator is a profound insult to every American who believes in the rule of law. We are at a crossroads, folks. We can accept this as the new normal where fear dictates our politics. And silence is the price of safety, or we can demand better. We can demand that our leaders answer the tough questions instead of attacking the questioner. I know many of you are watching this and feeling that same frustration I am. You want to do something, well, the first step is
Right,
staying
Zachary, I
informed
agree.
and building this movement. If you believe we need to hold our leaders accountable, hit that subscribe button right now. And if you really want to help us keep this channel independent and strong, please consider becoming a member. We need 1,000 of you to join the team so we can keep speaking truth to power. The administration thinks that by threatening one man, they can scare everyone else into silence. But they forgot one thing in America. The truth has a way of coming out. And when it does, it usually starts with a whisper before it becomes a roar. I want you to think about the men and women you know who have served Mabe. It's your uncle, your neighbor, or maybe it's you when you hang up that uniform for the last time. When you fold it away, there's a feeling of pride, but there is also a feeling of freedom. You did your duty, you served your time, you returned to being a private citizen with all the rights that come with it, including the right to speak your mind. But what we are seeing with this attack on Mark Kelly is an attempt to steal that freedom back. The administration is trying to say that the oath never really ends in the way you think it does. They are saying that they still own you. They are saying that if you are a retired Navy captain or a retired sergeant major, and you say something the president doesn't like, they can reach into your quiet civilian life, drag you back into the system, and put you on trial. That is a terrifying thought. It changes the deal. It tells millions of veterans that their First Amendment rights come with an asterisk, that their freedom of speech is conditional.
What the world needs now is you to be you, not a
On whether the White House agrees with them.
Kelly should not follow illegal orders, period. That's a court martial. That would be a court martial. Did y'all not watch A Few Good Men? They have an oath. But everybody who like breaking the law, breaking the rules, agree with Trump. Yeah. You could be a Trump lover all you want. But the military has an oath to follow legal orders. Not just the president's orders.
This
if they're
how
illegal.
A confident democracy acts. A confident leader listens to criticism, even from retired officers. They don't try to court-martial it out of existence. When I was commander-in-chief, I didn't always agree with what retired generals said on the news, but I never once thought about recalling them to active duty to silence them. That would have been a violation of everything we stand for. It would have been weak. And frankly, what we are seeing now is weakness masquerading as strength. We are watching a precedent being set that could haunt this country for generations. If they can do this to a senator, a man with the resources to fight back, what chance does a regular veteran have? It creates a culture of silence. It makes people afraid to stand up for what is right because they're afraid of losing their pension, their reputation, or their freedom. That is not the American way. That is the tactic of regimes we use to stand against. This story is moving fast, and the implications are getting more serious by the hour. We are seeing legal experts scratching their heads, saying this is uncharted waters. But for the people in power.
Okay, so for the ones that are still here who want me to continue to play this, I need for you to double tap the face of your phone if that's the device you're listening on. If not, I need for you to hit the three dots at the top, very top right. Hit those 3 dots. And hit the like button. It's my lunchtime, and I need these likes up if y'all gonna want me to keep entertaining y'all on my lunch. Double tap the face of your screen. Yeah, you know what, Tom? You show you crazy as hell. You love a man who was sucking Bubba's pickle. You love a man who was sucking on Bill Clinton's pickle. You love a man who was sucking on Bill Clinton's pickle. Now you gonna force me. Now you gonna force me to pull up the picture. Now you gonna force me to pull up the pickle eater. It's Picklegate, baby. You like a pickle sucker. He was sucking the dog shit out Bubba's pickle. Huh? You like that. You like watching that, didn't you? You like that, didn't you? Yeah. You ain't got no pictures. I got a... Now, I ain't talking about no picture in no dress. I'm talking about Trump on his knees, trying to get off into Bill Clinton's pants to suck that pickle juice. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Let me get the picture for ya. I don't know what you're trying to say. Hold on. Hold on. Let me get to the picture so you can see him on his knees sucking dick. Yeah. Let me get to the picture of him sucking dick. Yeah, let's get to the picture. He on his knees trying to get that thing. Yeah. So, yeah, you can say whatever you want to say about Obama. Ain't no pictures, ain't no mess, ain't no drama, ain't none of that. Yeah, but Trump was for damn sure eating that pickle and sucking that juice. He was trying to get all that juice out of there. He was saying his jaw work. How your jaw work? What? And he said, don't you dare spit it out. Yeah, you suck all of that. I'm for real. Absolutely. Bubba is Bill Clinton. It's in the Epstein's emails. Bubba is Bill Clinton. Absolutely. And yes, there are pictures. I done already put them out. Bubba is Bill. Epstein sent the pictures to Putin. Putin released this one to let Trump know I ain't playing with you. I got pictures of your wife and I got pictures of you. And he sent this one. Yeah. So while you playing with me, talking about Barry and Michelle, ain't no pictures of none of that shit. You may leave What did hula bird, hippo bird say? Mm-hmm. Yeah. People say he bisexual. Yeah, he's sucking Bill's dick. Yeah. So don't play with me. So let us finish here. Get the likes up. Yeah, get the likes up. Get the likes up. Oh, I have Trump suck. Yeah, now as I was. Let's go.
A man with the resources to fight back. What chance does a regular veteran have?
Oh,
It creates a culture
child,
of
please.
silence.
Get out of here
It
with them
makes people
lies.
afraid
It's
to
clear as
stand
day
up
it was
for what is
Trump.
right because they're afraid of losing their pension, their reputation, or their freedom. That is not the American
That's
way.
true, Hilda.
That is the tactic of
Hilda,
regimes
yeah.
we use to stand against. This story is moving fast, and the implications
Rightfulness.
are getting more serious by the hour. We are seeing legal experts scratching their heads, saying this is uncharted waters. But for the people in power, right now, uncharted waters are exactly where they want to be, because that's where they can make their own rules. We have to keep our eyes open. We cannot let this become just another noise in the news cycle. We need to document this, discuss this, and stand together against it. That is why this community matters so much. If you are tired of seeing our norms shatter, if you want to help us hold the line, please join us. Click that member button. We need to reach our goal of 1,000 new members to keep this independent voice strong. Your support tells them that we are watching. But as we look at the legal gymnastics they are pulling to get to Kelly, we have to look at the man himself. Mark Kelly isn't backing down. And what he is saying in his defense is something every American needs to hear, because it exposes the real fear inside the White House. You know, Mark Kelly is not a man who
Hildebert,
scares easily.
I ain't trying to be funny. It's your President Trump who funny. He's a fruity tooty Trump. So I ain't trying to be funny. He the one that's funny. He the one that's GAY. Not me. I ain't trying to be funny. I'm straight. Yeah, I'm straight. Trump is the one that's tutti fruity. Not me. Thank you, Mrs. Tom. Oh yeah, it be running all down his legs, Santos. I mean green shit too. Ooh, nasty. He need a
You don't
detox.
fly combat missions in Desert Storm or strap yourself into a space shuttle unless you have nerves of steel. So when he says he is being
Thank you, Tar Heel.
by the White
Thank
House,
you for the hot
he isn't
cocoa.
asking for sympathy.
Thank
He
you.
is sounding an alarm. He is telling us that the pressure being applied behind the scenes is not just about him. It is about breaking the will of anyone who dares to hold the administration accountable. And that is what makes his defense so critical right now. Senator Kelly argues that this whole investigation is a distraction.
Katie, yo
He
Trump
believes
is tutti
that
fruity.
by focusing on his
He
videos,
married a
the
hoe
administration
and he sucked Bubba's
is trying
dick.
to keep the public
What you talking about, girl? Bye.
from looking at the real issue, the legality of recent military strikes. Now, think about that. We have a decorated veteran saying, don't look at me. Look at what they are doing in your name. He is trying to shine a flashlight into the dark, and they are trying to smash the flashlight. This debate over illegal orders goes to the very heart of what it means to be an American soldier. We don't raise our troops to be
Yeah,
robots.
and you like pedos, Jim.
We raise them to be warriors with a conscience.
You like pedos.
We teach them the law of armed conflict. We tell them that if an order violates the laws of war, if it targets civilians,
He wear
if it
double
crosses the
diapers.
line into barbarism, they have a legal
Oh, one diaper won't
and
hold
moral
that shit.
obligation to say, no, that is not.
This This is what would happen
One
to your
diaper
body
can't
if you
hold
take
that
moose
thick.
gummies every day.
It be
Day
running
one,
all down his
take
leg.
the first gummy.
That is honor. That is what separates a professional military from a
And
mercenary
RC,
force.
your mama is a pedo. What you talking about? You, RC, your mama and your daddy are pedos. How the hell you think you got here? You a pedo too. Your mama one and your daddy. And both of them played with your ass. That's why you like Trump. Birds of a feather flock together. He your daddy too. You understand? Mama jokes don't bother me. I'm straight. I don't like pedos. Real white supremacists are Jewish Americans. Yeah, the white ones. That's why the real Jews are black. Right, but that Jewish is that man-made stuff. Yeah, your mama and your daddy pedos. What you talking about? And you a pedo lover. Yeah, y'all bonding. You bond with Trump, don't you? Yeah, because your mama and your daddy. And hell, that make you one too, right? Don't that make you one too? You sure you want to rumble with the bee? I sting, baby. I will sting you. You understand? I will sting you. I will sting you. Let's go.
And Kelly's reminder of these duties as seditious, they are trying to rewrite the military code. They are suggesting that the president's word is the only law that matters. And that is a slippery slope that leads to places we do not want to go. It suggests that they want a military that will execute any order, no matter how questionable, without hesitation.
All he's ever done was break the law.
I know there are people out there who are angry at Kelly. They feel he should back the president no matter what. I get that sense of loyalty, but true loyalty to this country
is not to Trump.
Loyalty to its values, not just its politicians. We have to be able to tell the difference. We have to be able to say, I respect the office, but I cannot respect this action. This is a heavy conversation.
Well, why do everybody want him back?
We can have right now, if you are,
including the Republicans.
If you want to help us,
they want him back.
These issues front and center. Please take a moment to join this channel, hit that member button. We are building a community of thoughtful, engaged citizens, and we need you in it. We need to hit that 1,000 member mark to show that we are serious, because as this investigation drags on, we are seeing something else happen. The military community itself is starting to fracture. You have active duty troops watching this and wondering what it means for them.
His approval rating is the highest ever.
Instability this is creating.
It's way higher than Trump's.
Is real.
You have the kind of courage.
And it is dangerous. And while all this chaos is churning, the administration is preparing its next move. A move that could take this from a political dispute to a constitutional crisis.
What you have done.
You know, we often talk about the Constitution as if it is this rock, this unshakable foundation that will always be there, no matter how hard the wind blows.
Every NAACP branch in the country.
But the truth, and this is the hard truth, is that the Constitution is only as strong as the people who are willing to defend it. It is a piece of paper until we give it life. And right now, what we are seeing with this move against Mark Kelly is an attempt to tear up one of the most important pages in that document, the separation of powers. Think about the setup here. You have the executive branch, the president, and
go change Trump diaper. Those
using the military justice system to go after a member
we speak
of the
English over here.
Branch. That is not how this system was designed to work. The founders put these checks and balances in
Yeah,
place
I know,
for a
I
reason.
know, I
They
know.
wanted to
That's
make
why
sure
his rating
that no
numbers
single
is high. That's
person,
why
no single
when they
office
do a
could
vote,
accumulate
he
enough
is
power
the
to crush
most.
their
I'll
opposition.
take
But by
Trump.
threatening
I know
to
you will, because you like
recall a
pedos.
senator to active duty,
Because you like pedos.
by
Your
trying
daddy
to
played
bring
with
him
your ass
under
when you
the
was little.
authority of the Uniform Code,
I
military
know, I
justice,
know.
they are trying to bypass those checks. They are trying to create a loophole where they can punish a political rival without having to go through the messy business of a civilian court or an election. This is what legal scholars mean.
Yeah, go get
When they
on your
talk
knees
about a
just like Trump and
constitutional
go play with
crisis,
Bills.
it's
Pickles.
not just a buzzword. It's the moment when the rules of the game are broken so badly that we don't know how to fix them. If the Pentagon can claim jurisdiction over a sitting U.S. senator simply because he used to serve, where does that authority stop? Does it extend to voting records? Does it extend to speeches on the Senate floor? If we accept this, we are accepting that the military is supreme over the civilian government whenever the president decides it is convenient. That is a dangerous, dangerous path. I feel the pain of this deeply. I look at this country and I see so much potential, so much goodness, but I also see how fragile it all is. We are watching norms that have held us together for 2 centuries being tested in real time. And it hurts to see the institutions we built being used to divide us. It hurts to see the military, which should be the great unifier, being turned into a partisan weapon. But we cannot just sit here and mourn the state of things. We have to act. We have to be the firewall that starts with awareness, and it starts with community. We are building a movement here.
Yeah, y'all like a president who breaks the law and play with
Does it
kids.
extend to speeches on the Senate
I
floor?
see why
If
we sick. Nope, he not wanted, he
accept this,
loved. You believe that
we
fake
are accepting that the
narrative.
military is supreme over the civilian
Pilot.
government whenever the president decides it is convenient. That is a dangerous, dangerous path. I feel the pain of this deeply. I look at this country and I see so much potential, so much goodness, but I also see how fragile it all is. We are watching norms that have held us together for 2 centuries being tested in real time. And it hurts to
I don't tolerate lies over here.
the institutions we built being used to divide us. It hurts to see the military, which should be the great unifier, being turned into a partisan weapon. But we cannot just sit here and mourn the state of things. We have to act. We have to be the firewall that starts with awareness, and it starts with community. We are building a movement here of people who refuse to look away.
My energy bill dropped from $150 to $50 by doing this. My friends laughed at me when I spent $49 on a power saver device that could...
If you want to be part of that, if you want to help us hold the line, please join this channel, become a member. We need every single one of you. We need to hit that goal of 1,000 members to show them that we are paying attention. We are not going anywhere. The administration
Locke, you worried about the wrong thing. We want you to focus on the message.
They are betting that the legal details are too boring, that the story is too complex, and that you'll just scroll past. But they are underestimating you. They are underestimating the American people's love for fairness. And as we move into the final chapters of this saga, we are going to see that pushback begin to take shape in a way that no one in the White House saw coming.
Every time y'all put Barry in, y'all out.
Another court that matters just as much.
You gonna call him President Obama, you getting out.
Public opinion. And right now, the verdict is starting to come in. The administration thought they could quietly intimidate Mark Kelly.
And they trying to intimidate us.
The sheer weight of the Pentagon to crush a dissenting voice. But they forgot that transparency is the enemy of tyranny. By dragging this into the light, They have inadvertently woken up a sleeping giant. You see,
Miss
Americans
Tom
have
said,
a very
I
sensitive radar.
need a rifle. I need a AK on the roof. I'm on the roof.
And watching a retired astronaut, a man who has represented the very best of us, being threatened with a court-martial for speaking about the rule of law.
Miss Tom, you said where my you want to spray him down?
The freedoms we enjoy are not guaranteed. They are not static. They can be eroded bit by bit if we stop paying attention. This isn't just about one news cycle. This fits into a troubling pattern we've seen lately: attacks on the press, attacks on the judiciary, and now attacks on the independence of the legislature. It is a systematic attempt to remove the guardrails, and I have to be honest with you, it pains me. I worry about
it pained me too.
The country my daughters are going to inherit. I don't want them growing up in an America where you have to look over your shoulder before you speak the truth. I don't want them to live in a place where the military is used as a personal police force for the president. But I also have hope, because I see what's happening in the comments section. I see what's happening in town halls. People are standing up. They are refusing to accept this new normal. They are realizing that silence is consent, and they are choosing to speak. That is the resilience that has always defined us. We stumble, yes, we make mistakes, but when the chips are down, we remember who we are. We are entering the final stretch of this story, and the stakes couldn't be clearer. We are deciding right now what kind of military we want and what kind of democracy we want to keep. This is why your voice matters so much. We are building something powerful here, a community that refuses to be intimidated. If you haven't joined us yet, please do it now. Click that member button. Let's get to that 1,000 strong. It's a small step, but it sends a massive message that we are here, we are watching, and we are not backing down. Because as we head into the final chapter, we have to look at the end game. Where does this road end? If we don't change course, the answer is something we need to face head on together. We have reached the moment of truth. This isn't just about Mark Kelly anymore. It isn't just about the Pentagon or the president. It is about us. It is about what we are willing to accept. If we stay silent while a senator is threatened with court-martial for defending the Constitution, we are giving permission for it to happen. Again, we are saying that power is more important than principle. And once we say that, once we give away that ground, it is very, very hard to get it back. I still believe in the America that I know. I believe in the America where a soldier can follow their conscience without fear. I believe in the America where a leader can be criticized without resorting to threats of jail. But that America doesn't exist by accident. It exists because generation after generation has fought to keep it. Now the torch has been passed to us. The question is not what Donald Trump will do next. The question is what we will do. Will we shrug our shoulders? Or will we stand up and say, this investigation into Senator Kelly is a test. It is testing the strength of our laws, the integrity of our military, and the courage of our citizens. I am betting on you. I am betting that you see this for what it is, a challenge to the very heart of our democracy. And I am betting that you are ready to meet that challenge. We need to make sure this story is heard in every corner of this country. We cannot let the algorithm bury the truth. We cannot let the noise drown out the signal. And this is where I need you, specifically you, to take action. We have seen our views drop recently, and that's no accident. It happens when you speak hard truths. but we can fix it together. I am asking you right now before you click away to do 4 things. First, hit that like button. It tells the system that this matters. Second, leave a comment below. Tell me what you think. Third, check to make sure you are subscribed. But most importantly, if you believe in this mission, if you want to be one of the people keeping this light burning, click that join button and become a member. We set a goal of 1,000 new members. Let's hit that number today. Let's show them that for every voice they try to silence, 1,000 more will rise up to speak. The road ahead is going to be bumpy. There will be more challenges, more attempts to bend the rules. But as long as we have each other, as long as we're engaged and alert, I know we can steer this ship back to safe waters. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Now, let's get to work.
I use PayPal to buy this ticket. I'm paying it off over time. No fees, no interest.
You know what else has no interest? Me.
You can pay your own way.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
The captain needs you back in the cockpit.
Oh, yeah, sir.
What?
Hold on, let's see.
Are you researching dental implants?
There's a lot of dental offices that'll talk about doing their teeth in the day process. A lot of times.
Let's see if the courts is back.
Buying our gas, buying our food, paying for our hotel. Journalism is expensive work, and it's exhausting work. We do it from just like the moment we wake up with the first
administration. ICE and law enforcement have worked in tandem.
Stop Trump ICE terror press conference.
During the ICE raid in St.
Minnesota. We waiting on the courts to come back.
What do we want? When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
So we're here today to address the St. Paul Police Department horrendous behavior during the ICE raid in St. Paul. We're also demanding that ICE leave the city of St. Paul in the Twin Cities area. But today's press conference is focused on the St. Paul Police Department's treatment of protesters and observers outside of a raid. First, outside of an ICE raid. First, we're gonna have Michelle Gross from Communities United Against Police Brutality.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Gross, MICHELLE-GROSS. I'm president of Communities United Against Police Brutality. The St. Paul Police Department's conduct during the November 25th raid on Rose Avenue is outrageous. It is also a violation of the post-board model policy on police interactions with First Amendment protected rights. And the reason I know that is because I'm one of the authors of that policy. All police departments are required to adopt a policy. Whenever there is a post-board model policy, all police departments are required to adopt that policy or one even more stringent. And the St. Paul Police Department has. In fact, in their policies 438 and 438.19, they have adopted pretty much the exact language of the post-board model policy. However, they didn't follow it that day. They violated it in 4 important ways. People who are not violating the law in any way were pepper sprayed directly in the face, as were the people around them who, again, had not violated any law. Chemical munitions were used as a form of collective punishment, where they were thrown into the street and created a fog, not just for all of the protesters and observers, but also for everyone who lives in that neighborhood. Once they dropped those chemical munitions into the community, they then fired through the smoke with direct fire munitions, pepper balls, and rubber bullets into the crowd indiscriminately without knowing who they were hitting or who they were aiming at or anything, because it was a big fog and they were just firing right through it, and that is outrageous conduct as well. And finally, they targeted members of the media, which you will be hearing from someone with that shortly. But they fired directly on members of the media who are well identified, well marked. This is an attack not only on people who were engaged in protected First Amendment activities, but it is also an attack on the right of the community to know about those activities.
ICE was on
and to know about
KW
the
and
conduct of ICE
detained
in
a
our neighborhood.
nurse
We are demanding that
drunk with
that
power
something be done
cowards
about
to
this.
cover their
We
face.
came last week
Absolutely.
to the St. Paul City
Because they know
Council
if
because
they
had announced that they were going to
if
discuss
are
this issue.
seen,
They'd announced it.
hell
they would do
comes
that
with
during
it.
their meeting. We came and we sat through the
Yeah.
entire meeting with them not addressing this issue in any way and not even allowing the public to discuss this issue. Now they've announced again that they're going to talk about that issue this coming week, but yet we get the agenda and there's nothing on there about addressing egregious police conduct that had no business happening and that is going to create liability for the city but also harm the community. So we are demanding that the St. Paul City Council address this issue, that the police engage in an investigation and assign appropriate misconduct discipline, and that this never, ever happen again. Thank you.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
In New York, the new mayor is talking about that the police can arrest ICE agents. So I think that's something that elected officials here in Minnesota should
Hi, Ariel.
contemplate. Next on our agenda, we have Tashir Garraway Allen from Family Support Families Against Police Violence.
I watched the videos.
My doctor told me I needed to eat healthier to lower my A1C and naturally boost my GLP-1. I didn't know where to start.
Our community get completely humiliated. I watched our community get mistreated.
Who's the real Mecha Man? Who is a bunch of Karens?
I watched our community get things.
This is a live
just
Stop Trump ICE Terror press conference.
That happened to human beings
Minnesota.
in our community on November 25th. We were to the understanding that the St. Paul police would not be working with ICE against our community and our neighbors. And so why did that happen? Why did we see on video footage? We even have the mayor that admitted.
How they gonna call somebody uneducated when Trump never graduated and let his sister take his test? He got put out because the professor said he the dumbest ever.
We have families and children.
Uneducated. Hell, can he read?
This community will be forever traumatized by what happened on November 25th, and it can't be swept under the rug and it can't be ignored, as many other things in the city of St. Paul have been swept under the rug and have been ignored. But when you show up to a city council meeting peacefully and you ask, can you speak and can you stand up for the human beings that were out there that day on November 25th that got mistreated, and you're denied the right in a city council meeting to speak up and told that it would be put on the next agenda when it should have been at the top of the agenda. If you've seen the videos that happened on November 25th, then you would know that there's no weight. There's no weight on justice. There's no weight on treating people with humanity. We're not here to say we hate or to bash the police, but we are here to say that when people mistreat other human beings for any reason at all, that they should be held accountable. That's what we're here to say. And we've seen it with our own eyes. They cannot convince us that we did not see what we saw.
Yeah, they want to change your vision.
Get harmed for simply doing their jobs. What happened out there that day was absolutely humane, and the city council, inhumane. inhumane.
Mhm.
And the city council and everybody else, the chief of police, the mayor, everybody should be standing up as a human being to say that what happened was absolutely wrong. Thank you.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
Prosecute the police. Our during George Floyd, we seen media get tear gas, pepper sprayed, and even handcuffed and detained in some instances. And the same thing happened. Now the same thing has
You
happened.
be
Somebody said
what did
that
you
ain't
say?
right.
Mindful of where you
Coming up
make
next,
your
we have
comments
an
at.
Emmy award-winning
Little bit of
journalist
fever, whatever the
talk
hell
about
your
her
name is, then
experience,
change your damn name.
what she's seen and witnessed and experienced during the ICE raid in St. Paul about a week or two ago. Please give a big round of applause to Georgia Fort.
Good afternoon. I stand here today not just as an independent journalist or leader of my respective organizations, but as a person who grew up on the East Side, a business owner who owns multiple commercial properties on the East Side, and as a mother whose children goes to school just blocks away from the site of the federal raid. Before I speak to the attack on journalists, I want to first say it has been extremely painful and heartbreaking to watch our Latino, Somali, and other neighbors have their families ripped apart. And not only am I deeply concerned, but we should all be deeply concerned by the way that their due process has been stripped away. As Americans, we've lived on a promise that people in our country would have the opportunity to share their case in court, that we would not just judge people by laws, but that we would have humanity by allowing them to share their circumstance in court. And unfortunately, that promise has been broken by our federal government. Each time that promise is broken, I am so inspired by all the brave people who stand behind me. I am inspired by their courage to take a stand and say that this is wrong. I often try to do my part by continuing, even though I'm afraid, continuing to show up and document what's happening. But the continued attack on journalists, which has meant to cause harm, fear, and intimidation, makes even some of the most brave frontline journalists like myself want to just stay home. Because at the end of the day, when I'm done doing my job, like all of you, I also deserve to go home to my children.
Absolutely.
And in fact, if you listen to the live stream, like more than 500,000 people did when I was out there live streaming, when the 3 journalists were attacked, I strategically made a decision to back away. And I told the 1,200 people who are watching in real time, I can't give you coverage because I need to get home to my kids. That should not be the reality for journalists who are documenting what's happening in our community, unless we're all saying that we no longer have constitutional rights. The violation of our rights has become so normalized, it doesn't make headlines anymore.
Thank you, Samantha.
People are not outraged. Did the governor issue a statement?
That's right, Georgia. That's right.
What is going to happen? What's the consequence for violating our constitutional rights? It seems like there's no consequence. It's normal. It's become a part of our culture.
That's why we got to get his ass out.
So what I have to say about the violent attack on journalists by the St. Paul Police Department on November 25th is it's not just unacceptable, but it sent a message that the St. Paul Police does not care about our rights.
That's right.
That our officers are not here to protect and serve us.
That's right.
And that they're willing to use the same unlawful tactics as the Trump administration, violating our First Amendment rights. So to the St. Paul Police Department, your taxpayers deserve better. Journalists have been attacked so much in the state of Minnesota, it's just common practice now. Business as usual. It's almost as though our protections under the First Amendment don't exist. And now I even see how I've been conditioned to not document, but to fall back. Conditioned, intimidated, because I want to get home to my kids. Since Trump's inauguration, I have spoken to many local elected officials who say that they are limited to what they can do to combat his administration's violation of our human, civil, and constitutional rights. And they too are scared, especially in light of the assassination of Melissa Hortman. I understand. However, our local officials do have jurisdiction to uphold and enforce our rights locally. So we are urging you to either take a stand or step down and allow someone who has the courage to lead.
That's right. That's right.
To those who have oversight of the St. Paul Police, how are you using your power to hold the officers accountable who violated the rights of not just the journalists, but the peaceful protesters? This is not a matter of what the federal government did. The attacks on local journalists and peaceful protesters happen at the hands of our own local law enforcement agencies.
That's right, Georgia.
Will you hold them accountable? Or will you allow your silence to be used as a weapon to continue to strip us of our constitutional rights? To the media, no journalist should be attacked while doing their job. I say this as a journalist who was shot with a rubber bullet and tear gassed in 2021 during protests for Dante Wright, and no one did anything about it. I wasn't a part of a class action lawsuit as an independent journalist. I didn't have that privilege. If you choose to stay neutral while your readers, listeners, and viewers are having their rights violated, then do not be surprised when your rights are violated too.
That part.
To the members of the press,
especially the people who voted for him. That
we are
part
governed
be
by the same agencies who are inflicting terror on our audiences. We need media reform. To the members of the press, I leave you with this. What did you learn in J school about covering an authoritarian regime? Probably didn't learn anything. We are in uncharted territory. We need media reform. You cannot be neutral about the dismantling of our democracy and still expect to be protected by it. You cannot be neutral about the violation of your audience's rights and still expect them to trust and support you. Thank you.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
Now, are there any questions?
No, we have. So we
hold on,
have.
one more.
We have some of the participants that were just out there peacefully, that were here, that witnessed everything, that got harmed on November 25th. We have Mary Ann from Indigenous Roots that will introduce the other people.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for being here. And I got a little joke for everybody. Came up with this at one of our late night meetings. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Mayor Carter.
Mayor Carter.
I got so many questions too. Rewind that tape back on King Demetrius's live and then Georgia Fort's live on Black Press. I'm here today just to keep it brief. We were peaceful observers when HSI and ICE was at 609 Rose Avenue on November 25th. We had a human chain. We were upholding our rights. Documented or undocumented, we all deserve human rights. I'm going to say that again. Documented or undocumented, we all deserve human rights. And many, many, many people who are detained do not have rights. They're deprived of food. They're deprived of their rights to talk to their loved ones. And so St. Paul Police is accomplice to that. They actually weren't there to protect Eastsiders or neighbors that day on November 25th. They were there to protect ICE operation. They escorted them out. And the sad part is, When ICE and HSI got who they were supposed to detain, by the way, this young man never ever received a warrant to this day for his arrest. Never ever even heard the rights or the due process that should have been given to him at the time he was detained.
Somebody say that ain't right. That ain't right.
And so it's important to know that our St. Paul police is upholding the ordinance that are meant to protect us. You all
But then
are
Trump
St.
needs to
Paul.
go. If
You
y'all
go
think,
grocery shopping with
what's
us.
your
We're
name?
all St.
Omar,
Paulers. How
then
is it
Trump
that
and
you
his
are
whole family need to
attacking
be out of here. What are
people
you talking
who are
about?
holding
They
canes,
are
who are
illegal.
just holding up their phones?
You illegal
No one
too. What are you
was
talking
there
about?
to threaten or attack you all. St. Paul police had their feelings hurt. People
Hi,
were
Lynn.
angry, of course. But you all paved the way for ICE agents to, you escorted them out. And when they left, you stayed. We told you to go home. The show was over. And you stayed and actually sat. What made me even sadder that day was the ICE agents were chill. They stepped back because St. Paul police did all the dirty
Bullshit.
work that day.
Curtis, that's
Who
bullshit.
called St. Paul police? That's what I'd like to know. Who asked them to be there? No one asked them to show up. And to what degree? So while I was attending to the family inside Rose Avenue, I do want to give way. I'm older, but these young folks, these young brave folks were right there on Payne Avenue, pushing, not literally, but getting the police to go home because the ICE operation that they protected was already over. So I want to have Ruthie and Chino just share their experience and their words.
Good morning. Okay. I'm Chino, Taya Chino, Teyaachino.
I'm Ruti, R-U-T-I.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon. We're here as people who were there on Tuesday, the entire 5 hours that there was a standoff between ICE and HSI, and a family that was hiding inside their house, afraid. We were people who, I was pushed around by SPPD, we were tear gassed, we were witnesses to the brutality that was happening on behalf of the SPPD.
Again, Ruti, R-U-T-I. And we just want to say that as people who were exercising their legal constitutional right, why did Taya, why did our community members who were asking for badge numbers, which is something we asked Mayor Carter and asked them, isn't it the duty of the officer to identify themselves, SPPD officer, to identify themselves when asked for their badge number? And Mayor Carter said, yes, so why were we tear gassed when we were asking for badge numbers, when we were asking to identify yourself? Because right in this moment, while they were spraying us, we're like, who are you? Are you HSI? Are you ICE?
Let me go to another.
Your badge on
Hold
the
on.
side
Until
says
they
SPPD.
deport Trump,
So identify your
his
badge
wife,
number. Why were we tear
his
gassed for
kids,
that? Why were we
to
shot
their
at?
homeland,
And so we're here
nobody
demanding
needs to be
that
deported.
they be
How about
held
that?
accountable, that they be held accountable for the atrocities that were
Until they
committed
deport
to us,
Trump
committed to. We literally
and
saw
his
as
whole
one
family,
officer was telling their other officer member,
nobody
"It's time
that's
for us to go.
already
It's
here
time for us
needs to
go."
be
And why were they
deported.
still standing there trying to do more harm to us? We're frustrated. I don't want to be here demanding accountability. That's not what I signed up for.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to until they deport Trump and his whole crew, his whole bunch of heathens, his whole bastard ass kids. Yes, until they deport him and his family, everybody that's here need to go through the proper process. But it needs to start with Trump. Yes, since he is deporting people illegally to traffic them so that he can make money behind the scenes with countries that's already a part of his trafficking. Yeah, so until they deport Trump, everybody stays.
70.
You understand?
Welcome.
Everybody stays. That's already here until they deport Trump. And all of them, they can go over. They can go wherever they want to go, but get your ass up out of here. All right. Don't nobody else. It don't it need to start at the top. If he thinks that everybody needs to be, that's illegal. Hell, both of his parents and grandparents on both sides came over. Okay, then don't nobody else need to be deported. Y'all are pedo lovers. You're a pedo lover, Clayton. Go let him go eat up in your ass and suck on your pickle. Yeah. Nobody needs to be deported until he gets his ass up out of here.
My energy bill dropped from $150 to $50 by doing this. My friends laughed at me when I spent $49 on a power saver device that could cut my energy bill in half.
Yeah, I know how things work. Do you know that your president shouldn't be a trafficker? Lori, do you know that your president shouldn't be a part of the biggest human child trafficking? But you okay with that, right? Because your mom and daddy and them was doing that type shit too? Y'all was all raised like that? Yeah, your daddy and mama shared you out, took you to the elite so that they could screw you as a child. Yeah, so you feel like if your mom and dad and them did that to you, then it's okay for everybody else to be great. Yeah, get your dumb ass up out of here. This ain't for dumb people. This just not for the dumb. The slow either. No. Because that's the only type of people who will be okay with a convicted sex assault criminal to be in office. Y'all so slow.
Former Fox host turned political operative has issued a formal demand for the Navy to deliver a report by Wednesday, December 10th. The focus is a video where Senator Mark Kelly, combat veteran, Navy captain, and astronaut, urged service members to disobey any unlawful orders from the Trump administration. Let that sit for a moment. A sitting U.S. Senator, decorated and retired from military service, is now being targeted for restating a core tenet of military law. Illegal orders must not be followed. This is not controversial. It is literally Article 90 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And yet we're watching an attempt to reframe a basic legal principle as political rebellion. This kind of procedural weaponization has appeared before, where partisan actors try to twist lawful dissent into supposed disloyalty. And when that pressure comes from inside the Pentagon or through civilian allies like Hegseth, it threatens the balance of civilian control that underpins American democracy. Asked about the investigation, Kelly responds with clarity and concern. No one from the Navy has contacted him. Not a formal letter, not a phone call, not even an email.
Thank you,
The
Lisa.
only indication of this inquiry came through a single social media post from Hegseth. A senator first learned he was being investigated online. Think about what that means, not just for Kelly, but for anyone in government or the military who speaks uncomfortable truths. Kelly is left in the dark while a deadline approaches. Meanwhile, the administration and its media surrogates frame him as disloyal. But what exactly did he say? He told service members to uphold the law. That's it. He didn't call for mutiny. He didn't advocate insubordination.
Dump's brain is full of mashed
now he's being
potatoes.
displayed in the political square as a warning, speak out, and a process will be created to silence him. What's astonishing is that Pete Hegseth once said nearly the same thing on air, proudly arguing that U.S. troops should refuse unlawful commands. That was in 2016. But now, in 2025, with Trump seeking a return to office and loyalty tests rising, the same principle is treated.
Do you know Hobby Lobby has hundreds of incredible products on sale every single week? Just check
as defiance. So what changed? Not the law, not the ethics. only the political allegiance of the person giving the order. That shift is a red flag for anyone who cares about military integrity or the rule of law. We've seen this pattern before in moments like My Lai and Abu Ghraib, where just following orders could not excuse misconduct. The lesson from those tragedies was about moral responsibility at every level of command. Kelly's reminder echoes that responsibility. So when voices like Hegseth now try to punish that message, it's worth asking who is truly dishonoring the uniform: the veteran urging lawful conduct, or the commentator demanding unquestioning obedience for political gain. Senator Mark Kelly stood before a camera and delivered a simple legal and constitutional message. Members of the military are obligated to follow the law, not personal loyalty, not political pressure, but the law. That is not merely a statement. It is a reaffirmation of military ethics codified in the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Yet he is now being threatened with court-martial. Not for inciting mutiny, not for revealing classified information, but for reminding troops that illegal orders are illegal. The person pushing that charge is Pete Hegseth, the same individual who, in 2016, publicly stated that service members must refuse unlawful or inhumane commands. Again, what changed? Not the principle, only the politics. This is the definition of selective outrage. When the identity of the speaker becomes more important than the content of the message, the rule of law becomes a partisan tool instead of a neutral standard. We don't have to interpret Kelly's comments in isolation. We can look at Hegseth's own recorded remarks. He once argued that accountability for misconduct is essential, and that no soldier should follow unlawful, immoral, or inhumane commands. That was considered principled, not provocative. It aligned with decades of military legal doctrine. Today, Kelly repeats the same core value, and it is framed as insubordination. That is a double standard. Why is condemning illegal orders acceptable under one administration but labeled dangerous speech under another? Who gets to decide when loyalty to the law becomes a punishable act? This is why the military's obligation to refuse unlawful orders matters. It is not political. It is a moral safeguard. Our armed forces are not designed to serve an individual. They are trained to serve the Constitution. When that distinction blurs, we drift toward the same rationalizations used by regimes we criticize. Do we want a military that evaluates the legality of commands, or one that salutes and fires without question? What kind of nation are we shaping if the act of reminding troops to follow the law becomes an offense? Senator Tom Cotton, appearing on national television, defended a recent military strike by claiming the individuals on the targeted boat were not incapacitated. He stated they were not floating on wreckage or life vests, but positioned on a partially submerged vessel. His rationale was that this justified striking the boat a second time to destroy the cargo, but this was not an active threat. It was a follow-up strike on a disabled boat with survivors on board. Regardless of political affiliation or military background, the question arises, was this about eliminating danger or eliminating evidence? Cotton framed it as a routine battlefield decision, yet the timing, lack of transparency, and disproportionate nature of the second strike raised serious legal and ethical concerns. In any military action, especially one carried out under democratic oversight, justification is everything. Cotton insisted the strike violated no international laws and accused the Washington Post of defaming Secretary Hicks and Admiral Bradley by reporting on the issue. He demanded apologies rather than accountability. But this isn't about public relations. It's about whether the military upheld its own code of conduct. When elected officials rush to defend leaders without transparency, oversight risks dissolving into blind loyalty. Senator Kelly was asked whether he agreed with Cotton's assessment, and he did not hesitate. He disagrees. He is not playing partisan games. He wants facts. He is demanding access to the full video and testimony under oath, not because he assumes wrongdoing, but because oversight requires inquiry, not pre-written conclusions. Kelly has not seen the full video, even though he serves on both the Senate Armed Services and Intelligence Committees. That alone is revealing. A senator with clearance, responsible for oversight, is being denied full visibility into an operation he is constitutionally tasked with reviewing. He has formally requested a public hearing and urged committee leaders to subpoena all relevant materials. Only partial footage has been released, enough to stir controversy, but not enough to provide context. So the question becomes, what is being withheld and why? If the operation was lawful and justified, transparency would be its strongest defense.
Right.
But if accountability is being buried under classification and
They
delay,
hiding something.
what message does that send to the troops who carried out the strike? That they must act and then
It's
deal with
illegal.
the truth? What stands out
No
about Cotton's
Senate
defense is how
confirmation,
inconsistent
no
it
U.S.
becomes
Attorney
when
General
compared to other
job for
military
you,
actions in similar
Alina
situations.
Habba.
In
Get
a
your
later
ass up
strike
out of
involving
here.
2 survivors, those individuals were not killed. They were rescued,
Thank you,
processed.
Katrina Taylor,
Hey everybody, Peach here, and today we're going
for
to
the
take a look
gaming
at the
gift.
Gideon's
Thank
Gym
you.
Monster 2, which is an all-in-one
and sent home. One scenario ended in survival, the other ended in death. Same type of mission, different results. Why?
I
What
don't know
changed
why
in
it's
the
shaking.
decision-making process? That contradiction exposes a deeper issue, not just in strategy, but in standards. When life and death decisions vary
Hi,
based on public
Lynn.
pressure, internal politics, or which chain of command is involved, the rules of engagement lose coherence. Kelly is not jumping to conclusions. He is demanding what every American deserves: clarity and accountability. That begins with full transparency. He wants the complete video released. Not a clip, not a blurred image, the whole thing, unedited. And he wants the legal analysis. Because without documented justification, the operation becomes a matter of interpretation rather than law. We cannot function in a national security environment where public trust is expected but not earned. When the government claims an operation is lawful, it should demonstrate why. That is what distinguishes democracies from systems that operate in secrecy. And when one group of survivors is released while another is subjected to a second strike, possibly fatal, legitimate questions arise that no press release can resolve. Kelly is not simply asking to view the footage. He is pushing for a genuine investigation, one with sworn testimony.
Shout out to Kelly. Hold on, let me hear this before I get ready to go. Hold on. Oh, battery at 10%. Okay, I'm gonna have to get ready to go. Let me charge this up. Okay, I don't know why this stuck.
SSDI benefits while you return to work are quietly sounding the alarm.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get ready to go, y'all, because I'm out of juice. I was trying to wait for them to come back and finish, so I have to start another live. But let's listen to this. They said no. I don't know why it's shaking. I don't know why it's doing that. I have no idea why it's doing
About
it.
potential illegal orders coming down the chain, according to Senator Alyssa Slotkin. I want to break down why these troops are blowing the whistle, and I want to back up and break down Pete Hegseth's ongoing investigation, because senators are still vigorously trying to investigate what happened in the Caribbean Ocean, and we still do not have access to the second video yet. But we do have access to some old footage of Pete Hegseth talking about potential war crimes, and it doesn't look too good for him. So drop a like, double check to make sure you're subscribed to the Adam Mockler feed. We are growing at a pace where we can beat MAGA media, and we just need your help by subscribing. So Hegseth, in 2016, repeatedly warned of Trump using unlawful military orders. I want to start here because CNN provides this archived video, and this is like a look into a different reality. This is like a look into a Twilight era.
What
This is
about
2016,
Indonesia?
and Pete Hegseth and even Brian Kilmeade are sitting across from each other, both condemning the way that Trump speaks. It is like a different reality, but the thing that they are condemning is Trump brazenly saying he will issue and enforce illegal orders. Take a listen here.
With Trump University, with offshoring jobs and ties. I mean, they were going with everything they could.
Military leaders saying
Why
you
is
could
it
not
shaking?
possibly kill the families of would-be terrorists, and they would not follow the order. And his answer, Donald Trump's answer, on what if the generals won't listen to you when you say take out the guns? Oh, they'll listen. That's really not the answer.
No, I got some response from vets on that saying you're not just going to follow that order if it's unlawful.
Right, especially because what happened happened with the CIA last time. They end up they get legal authority to do waterboarding. Next thing you know, there's a new president, and they have to go lawyer up.
Yeah.
The one thing that's pretty clear is that even before the debate started, the attacks were coming fast and furious on Donald Trump.
Yeah, they really were. We counted up the attacks. Some of them were repeats, but overall, there were 11 attacks on Donald Trump last night. How many?
You researching dental implants?
Attacks on Donald Trump.
That'll talk about doing their teeth in the day process.
On Donald Trump last night. How many on Hillary? 4. And this.
Okay, so you already see them doing this little both sides asymmetry
but
here.
we're here
But
because we know
you do
that
hear
our
Pete
tax
Hegseth saying
dollars
that
are going
vets
through
were
that.
concerned and that they would deny those orders. They would refuse those illegal orders. Oh, I'm sorry, Pete Hegseth. 10 years later, your head's about to explode, and you're calling to prosecute Democrats for saying that troops can refuse illegal orders. It is so incredibly bizarre that Pete Hegseth has basically switched his entire stance on this, and he's gone from a principled, pro-Constitution, pro-America, pro-Uniform Code of Military Justice, like he understood all of that back in 2016, it seems like, and now his brain is melted so much so that he is in power, leading the Pentagon and saying that there's no such thing as an illegal order. In fact, he and Admiral Brout illegal orders, and he's denying it. He's denying that they exist. Mandy says, in a world full of Mark Kellys, be a Pete Hegseth. And someone says, American hero, Mark Kelly, has only had one wife. After she was shot in the head, he retired from the Navy and NASA to care for her and help her in recovery. Of course, referring to Gabby Giffords. Pete Hegseth's current wife is the woman he got pregnant when he was cheating on his second wife with,
What
who
does
was
that have to
also
do with
pregnant
orders?
at the time. Listen, I don't judge anyone's personal life.
Yeah, what does that have to do with
I don't care what your
orders?
personal life is. As long as you don't harm anybody else in your free time, it's not really my business. But Mark Kelly is objectively just a superior human being to Pete Hegseth in every single way possible. And that's shown by the way that Mark Kelly speaks about our military.
I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to continue to push back on him and his administration when they're doing things that are unconstitutional, unlawful, stupid. They do a lot of stupid. You're seeing it in Venezuela right now, and the consequences of that, and the consequences of hiring unqualified people for really important jobs.
Staying on that subject for a moment, Senator, there's a December 10th deadline that the Secretary put down in the Pentagon's investigation, such as it is. Have you heard from either the Pentagon?
Was that on Twitter?
It was. The Pentagon or the FBI, have they reached out to you to try and arrange any kind of interviews or requests for
We
information?
got something from the FBI. We got one thing. Didn't even have a point of contact on it.
This is Mark Kelly talking about the investigation into him. Because he said you are allowed to refuse illegal orders. Think about how messed up this is. A bunch of representatives and senators like Alyssa Slotkin and Mark Kelly came out and said, you're allowed to refuse illegal orders, by the way. And Pete Hegseth then denied that illegal orders exist. Then we found out that all of this happened. By the way, I could totally see Mark Kelly on the Democratic primary debate stage in 2028. I could see it. There's going to be a lot of good candidates out there, and the way he speaks about America, the way he communicates, he would be one of them. It could be Mark Kelly, maybe AOC, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Andy Bashir. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch, but Kamala Harris might run. We have a list of candidates. It's going to be a crowded debate stage as we try to find which direction the Democratic Party is going to go. It's going to be a real battle of ideologies. Are we going to go towards a center-left path, towards a more populist left path, towards a farther left path? It is truly going to be a crossroads in the 2028 primary. Here is Senator Alyssa Slotkin talking about young troops, young intelligence officers within the military pulling her aside and blowing the whistle.
I was at an event, and this young man who works here in Washington came up to me, pulled me aside after the event, got out of earshot and said, I just wanted to thank you. I'm part of a National Guard, in the Midwestern state, and I'm an intel officer. And I just went to a training, and all of my fellow intel officers are worried that we're going to be asked to do intel collection and exploitation inside the United States. Right? That skills
That's
we
not what
learned
they
to
signed
protect
up for.
against foreign adversaries, which is the job, that we're now maybe going to be asked to do that inside a detention facility or inside somewhere in the United States with American citizens.
And there enter the illegal orders that they made a video about, the potential illegal orders that could be issued. One of the Democratic senators whom Donald Trump said should be executed for sedition isn't backing down. I can't believe so many insane things have happened that I haven't mentioned yet that Donald Trump said. Because Alyssa Slotkin said illegal orders should be refused, the Slotkin should be hung. He reposted
Yeah, we don't want to
something
talk about that hanging
George
stuff.
Washington would have. Senator Alyssa Slotkin, one of the 6 prominent Democratic lawmakers and former service members who appeared in the video urging U.S. troops and intel officers to reject unlawful demands, said military personnel have expressed anguish to her over carrying.
Okay, y'all, I'll be back.
I find it concerning that a lot of the older people.
I'm out of juice, and I need to charge it, and I'm waiting for the Supreme Court to return so we can continue to listen in when they return. Let me get some juice, and I will be back. Thumbs up, please, as you come in. Yeah, it's about to shut down. I'm low on juice. I'm sure it's going to kick me out.
Mark Milley, who was a highly respected war general for 36 years, I believe, had to retire, gets death threats, and said that Trump is essentially a wannabe dictator.
He is a wannabe dictator.
Dictator that we shouldn't bow down to. And now, younger troops, younger intelligence officers are saying similar things. They're worried about potentially illegal orders being issued, and the fact that there is zero moral clarity coming from the top about these illegal orders. And the most disturbing part is we know that they know. They have some level of clarity because this is Brian Kilmeade and Pete Hegseth talking about it roughly a decade ago. Now,
son, there comes a time in every young.
I'll be back when they come back. I'll be back, y'all.
Okay.
Thank y'all. Thank you, Miss Tom. Thank you, Janet. That was a little rough, but we made it through.
One of those times
We made it through. Spraying them down, baby. We sprayed them down.
If you haven't heard about Oksha yet, they make long-lasting, affordable fragrances.
Sprayed them down. Okay, I'ma eat.
My latest favorite scent is Basic Union, inspired by.
Bye. I'll be back.